Hello guys, Dr. Spooks here. If you enjoy my videos, please click the like button. It's the only way YouTube's algorithm really notices me. I would be very grateful to you. I got paid $20,000 to test a video game, and now everything I love is dead. My buddy Steve was a genius at making money without doing anything. At one point, he was enrolled in 12 different clinical trials at the same time. Some of these were for drugs that would have had bad interactions, but it didn't matter to Steve, because he never actually took the drugs. He did it like they do in the movies and just slipped them under his tongue and then spat them into his hand when the doc was turned away. Other trials were for new therapeutic approaches and things like that, but those were no problem for Steve either. At most, he had to lie, literally and metaphorically, on somebody's couch for an hour each week, then collect his check on the way out. But eventually they caught on, and Steve was put on some kind of list. There was a nationwide ban on Steve, so that he couldn't participate in any more trials sponsored by universities or private drug companies, which essentially precluded him from that easy money. But Steve found a workaround. Not all experiments are above board and sanctioned by the FDA or whatever. There is, in fact, a hidden world of people testing things out in their garages, streamlining the whole process, without having to worry about pesky and expensive regulations. One of Steve's friends gave him a link to a forum on the dark web, and after that, he was in the pipeline. The thing about these experiments is that if it were for, say, a new drug, they didn't trust you to just swallow the pill. You had to open your mouth and lift your tongue. You had to actually take the thing, because these people weren't joking around. But boy, did they pay. One morning I was awakened by an insanely loud banging at my apartment door. "Who's that?" moaned my girlfriend Sophia. I looked at the clock with bleary eyes. It was 5:55 a.m. "Open up, dude," shouted Steve from the hallway. "Oh, screw him," said Sophia. "He could be in trouble," I said, shooting out of bed, full of adrenaline. I answered the door in my boxers, and there was Steve, bouncing up and down, his pupils each the size of the full moon. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm awesome," said Steve. "Holy shit, dude. This stuff, they gave me $1,000 to take one fucking pill, and it rules so much. It feels so good. Oh my God, Jay. Oh my God." My head hurt as I tried to piece together a thought. "So you're high? And you came to tell me that you got paid a lot of money to get high?" I felt a surge of rage welling up deep inside of me. "Ha! Yes. I mean, no. Look, man, you're my best friend. I love you. I love you so much. I want to... No, listen, I came here because, look. There's money. A lot of money. For me and for you. $20,000 for a video game. To play a video game or something, dude. 20 grand to play a video game for a few hours. Look, I'm just telling you this because I love you. You don't need to take drugs or anything. Just do some virtual reality stuff for a few hours, and boom, 20 grand in your pocket like that." The flood of rage died down as I tried to make sense of what Steve was saying. I couldn't. "What are you saying?" I asked. "Why are you here before the crack of dawn? Sophia's pissed, and so am I, really." No, said Steve, with a horrified look on his face. "No, I want you to be happy. Sophia, too. Look. You still have that Tor browser I set you up with and all that?" I guess so." Good. Listen. Look." Steve jammed his hand in his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. "Look. Just type this in, and you'll see. You'll see. Easy money, okay? $20,000. You can finally buy that engagement ring you've been..." I reached out and smacked Steve across the side of the head. "Jesus Christ, dude. Keep it down, yeah?" Steve looked shocked and hurt for a moment before the realization dawned on him. "Oh. Shit. My bad. I'm sorry, dude." I'm sorry. I wish I could delete it. I wish I could delete it. Listen, are you going to check this out, or what? He held out the crumpled piece of paper to me. I took it and shrugged. I'll check it out, Steve. But that's it for now. Why don't you head home and sleep this one off, huh? Yes, said Steve, nodding his head like crazy. Yes, check it out. I'll sleep it off. I started to close the door, but he stuck his foot in just before it closed. Dude? Yeah? Can I use your bathroom? I opened the door inside as he rushed into the bathroom and started puking his guts out. Steve received a ban from our apartment after that, but we stayed in touch. He would text me every few hours, asking if I'd checked out the advertisement for the video game trial yet. The truth was that I had checked it out as soon as he left that morning, but I was undecided. On the one hand, the $20,000 sure was intriguing. That was almost half again as much as I made in a year, more than half, after taxes. And I had a feeling that this wasn't the sort of gig where they took taxes out. I'd be able to do a lot with the money. Take Sophia out for all kinds of dinners, maybe take a vacation, and travel somewhere interesting. The kinds of things we always wanted to do but never could afford to do. Then, too, yes, there was that engagement ring. Sophia would say yes either way, even if I presented her with some rolled-up aluminum foil. But I wanted it to be special. I wanted it to be special, but I couldn't afford to make it special. On the other hand, well, the whole thing was sketchy as fuck. Who pays some Joe off the street $20K to test out a video game? And why go through such shady channels to set the thing up? I knew from the start that nothing good could come from it. I knew that, but I did it anyway. All right, I wrote in a text to Steve. I'm in for the video game thing. My man, we're gonna be swimming in fucking caviar, my dude. Steve and I drove to the address together. It was, strangely, a respectable-looking office building. We went up to the entrance and looked at the map of the building. There was a lawyer in there, a counselor, an accountant, and so forth. Shit, said Steve. Which fucking office is it? On cue, his phone buzzed. Oh, he said. The basement. The basement? I asked. Not for real. The basement. I don't know about this, man. Come on, dude. $20,000. And in such a nice building, too. I'm used to going to crazy people's garages and swallowing God knows what. This is going to be cake. I nodded, but as we walked to the elevator, my sense of unease grew larger and larger until it was screaming at me. Turn around. Whatever this is, it's bad. It's just a video game, I muttered. What's that? Asked Steve. I snapped out of it. I said, let's go play this dumb video game and get paid. That's the attitude, said Steve, grinning, as the elevator door slid closed behind me. We rode down to the basement as I tried to calm myself down. It's a video game in the basement of a respectable office. Probably. They could only afford to rent the basement. I shut myself up before I could ask. They could only afford to rent the basement, but they're paying you $20,000 each? When we reached the bottom, the doors slid open, and the first thing that I saw was a man and a woman sitting at a plastic work table in the middle of a large room. Other than that, it looked like a standard basement with equipment like boilers and hot water heaters and exposed wiring and concrete floors. Welcome, said the woman. Stephen and Jason, is that right? That's us, said Steve, stepping off the elevator. I followed behind and watched as the woman wrote something on her clipboard. That's fantastic, said the man. Right on time. Well, a few minutes late, but that's okay. He laughed. It happens, said the woman, smiling. People have things to do, and we respect that here. That's why we're going to get right down to business, or nearly so. First, we need you to sign the contract. The woman held out 2 clipboards, and we each took one. Before I looked at it, I took a moment to note that my unease had not subsided, despite the surface friendliness of the man and the woman. Somehow that made it more bizarre, that they were just sitting there, so poised amongst the plumbing pipes running overhead, ready to offer us a lot of money to play a video game. "Where do we play the game?" I asked, looking around. I didn't see a TV or anything. "Up here," said the man, tapping his head. I started, but Steve gave me a nudge. "They'll tell us what to do," he said. "Just sign the contract, dude." He scrawled some information into a few boxes and dashed off a signature while I read more closely. The participant agrees not to seek compensation beyond the predetermined amount. In this case, the predetermined amount is $20,000 USD for participating in one trial game of Total Control, TC. The makers of TC and the administrators of the trial hereby relieve themselves of all liability for any injury sustained during gameplay, with the express agreement of the participant. "Injuries?" I asked. "What kind of game is this?" The woman smiled. "Unfortunately, we're not allowed to tell you anything about the game until you sign the contract. After that, you'll know all about it. In the event that the participant is unable to collect the predetermined amount at the end of the game, the makers of TC will transfer the funds to a person of the participant's choosing. The following box is for the participant to note the name and address of the next of kin." "So you're saying that if we die, you'll give the money to somebody that we choose?" I asked. "Is that right?" "That's right," said the man. "If we die while playing your game," I stressed. I turned to Steve. "This is nuts." Steve shrugged. "It's a lot of money, dude. Take it or leave it." "I'm taking it." I tried to convince myself to leave it, but then I thought about going to Europe with Sophia. I wrote her name in the next of kin box and then signed the form. I handed the clipboard back to the woman, who scanned it over. "Fantastic," she said. "Now will you tell us what this game is?" I asked. "We'll do better than that," said the man. He reached down into a cardboard box on the ground and pulled out what looked to be 2 headsets. "We'll show you the game. Please, gentlemen, put these devices on your heads and prepare for an experience unlike any other. Or so we hope," he added, laughing. Steve didn't hesitate to put the thing on his head. It looked like the front half of a helmet with an elastic band securing it in place and a pair of glasses attached to the helmet. "I don't see anything," said Steve. "It's a 2-player game," said the man, nodding to me. I took a deep breath. It's just a fucking game. I put the headset on and looked through the glasses. Everything looked the same, except it had a slight yellow tint. I watched as the man reached into the box again and brought out 2 video game controllers. He handed one to the woman, and then they each pushed a button. I heard Steve scream a split second before I heard the hiss of some hydraulic mechanism being engaged just above my ear. Then I felt the most intense pain in my life. It felt like something was being jabbed directly into my fucking brain. And that's exactly what was happening. A trickle of blood rolled down the side of my head as my brain lit up with pain. Then I was out of it. When I woke up, I was strapped to a chair sitting opposite the man and woman behind their table and next to Steve. There was only a dull ache in my head now, but it didn't take long for me to burst into a full-on panic. "Ah, good," said the woman. "You're both awake." She stood up calmly, walked over, and undid my straps. "What is this?" I gasped. "What the fuck is this?" "It's an experiment," said the man. "Don't worry, we've ironed out some kinks since the last time we tried it." "What experiment?" I asked, standing up on wobbly legs. "What are you going to do to us?" The woman went to work unstrapping Steve. "We've implanted a device in your head," she explained. "It allows us to control your physical movements. Or so we hope." Steve rubbed his head. "What the fuck? You're going to pay us, right?" "Of course," said the man. He reached into his cardboard box and pulled out 2 thick envelopes. I hope Cash is okay. He tossed them across the table to our feet. Steve bent down and tore his open. I saw the cash inside. Okay, he said. That's worth it for a little headache, I guess. All right, so you've implanted these devices in our brains. Okay, so can we leave now? You can try, said the man, but you won't be able to if we don't want you to, said the woman. And we don't want you to, said the man. Not until you fight to the death, said the woman. I jumped to my feet and tried to slow down my breathing. Come on, man, I said to Steve. That's enough of this. I bent down to pick up my envelope and then started walking towards the elevator. Thanks for the money, guys, said Steve. Then he followed behind me and pushed the button. The light came on and we waited for the elevator to come. Then I reached my fist back and swung it as hard as I could at Steve's jaw. It connected with a loud crack, and I saw a spray of blood leave his mouth. Whew, a fuck, groaned Steve, rubbing his jaw. I felt dizzy. What the fuck indeed? Why had I just socked my best friend in the face for no reason? Dude, I'm so sorry. I have no idea why I did that. Steve spit out some blood on the basement floor. Forget it. Let's just get the fuck out of here. The elevator door dinged. Sounds good to me, I said as the door slid open. I went to step in when suddenly I felt a hand grab my shoulder and roughly spin me around. It was Steve. He had a confused look on his face as he grabbed my neck with both hands and started to choke me. My nerves exploded in panic as I struggled to breathe. I felt myself bring my knee up into Steve's balls. He let go of my neck then and hunched over. What's happening? He gasped. I brought my elbow down on his back and he screamed out in pain. I don't know, I said. I don't know. I looked over at the man and the women still seated behind their plastic work table. They were each holding their game controllers and smiling. What the fuck is happening? The woman pushed a button and suddenly Steve lunged at me, driving his shoulder into my gut. We hit the ground together, my elbow taking the brunt of the impact. I'm so sorry, cried Steve. I can't stop it. I reached up and grabbed Steve's face in my hand. I didn't want to. I tried to make myself stop, but I couldn't. I began squeezing between my thumb and middle finger, which were spread out and gripped into the spot behind his eye sockets. Stop this, I shouted. Steve sunk into my palm with his teeth and tore a chunk of my flesh off. I felt a searing pain and a deep fear as he spit my skin onto the ground. I tried to will myself to stay still, but I couldn't. I punched him in the eye. When his head jerked back from the blow, I pushed against his chest and twisted around, so that now I was on top of him. I took a clump of his hair in my hand and began smashing his head against the concrete floor, again and again and again. I was crying. I was begging myself to stop. I was begging the man and the woman to stop whatever they were doing. I was begging Steve to forgive me as his head hit the floor with a thunk that sounded wetter and wetter each time as blood gushed and sprayed everywhere. Okay, said the man after a while. That's enough. My player is dead now. I heard the woman laugh. I told you I would win. Suddenly I was in control of my own movements again. I set Steve's head gently on the ground and knelt next to him, sobbing. What have I done? I wailed. What did you make me do? Now, said the man, standing up. It's not all bad news. He walked over and picked up the envelope of cash that Steve had dropped. He did name you as his next of kin, so you've just made $40,000. I looked up at him with blurry eyes. You fucking monsters, I said, standing up. I'll fucking kill you. I ran at him full of rage, with my arms outstretched. But when I got to him, I slowed down, spread my arms wider, and embraced him in a friendly hug. My mind screamed in terror and rage, but my body wouldn't respond. We control you now, said the woman. "We're happy to let it go at this. You've served our purpose as a beta tester. We'll let you get in that elevator with your money, and you'll never hear from us again if you honor your contract. Do you remember your contract? There's a copy of it in your back pocket. There's one bit that you should pay careful attention to. The bit about how you are never to tell anyone anything close to what happened here. Don't worry about coming up with an explanation for your friend. We'll take care of that. All that you have to do about this all is literally nothing. Don't say a word. You're probably best forgetting it ever happened. There's a hose in the corner," said the man. "Clean yourself up, take your money, and leave." I did that. I just wasn't sure if I was the one doing it. After I killed Steve, my life fell apart. Of course it did. I knew that I wasn't in control of my actions at the time, but that didn't help at all. I'd watched the life leave his eyes, and I'd gone on smashing his head against the concrete again and again, well after he was dead. I had nightmares about it every night, and the worst part was that I couldn't tell anybody about it. What was I supposed to do? Turn myself in to the police for murdering my best friend literally against my will? How would that help anything? I wanted to tell Sophia. I wanted to tell her so badly, but I couldn't. Those people had put the fear in me. We started doing fancy things together with the money, like going out to eat, but it was no good. It was like a part of me had died when Steve had died, when I had bashed the life out of him. Sophia didn't want fancy dinners and all of the things that money can buy. She wanted me, but I wasn't there anymore. I started drinking more and more. I considered suicide, not seriously at first, but as time went by, it seemed more and more like a viable option. Anything to stop the never-ending guilt and grief. For her part, Sophia stuck with me for longer than could have been hoped for. But finally it got to be too much. It was clear enough that things were over well before the night we lay in bed together after yet another failed attempt at making love. "I can't do this anymore, Jay," she said. "I love you, but something changed after Steve's accident. I know that he was your best friend, and it tore your heart out. But what about life? What about me? You didn't die. I didn't die. We're still here. And I can't do it anymore. It's been 3 months, and I don't think I've heard you laugh once. I'm not blaming you, and I can't tell you how much I wanted to be able to do this. It's my failure, really, but like I said, we're still alive, and I want to live while I can, and I want you to live too." I clenched my jaw, trying to fight back the tears. I tried to think rationally. If you really love her, you'll tell her to fuck off. But I didn't. "I have to tell you something," I said. Then, as my soul screamed in horror, I smothered her with a pillow. I've been in bed with Sophia's dead body for 2 days now. Yesterday I got a text. "We have gathered all the data we need. Your contract has been fulfilled. Your unit has been deactivated. We thank you for your participation and wish you the best of luck. I don't know what to do. I'll start here by typing this out. My name is Jay, and I killed my best friend and the love of my life, but I wasn't in control of my body at the time. Where do I go from here?" I warn dark web targets. My name is Jay. Not that you would know if I was telling the truth or not, but you can call me Jay. I work as a chef for rich people. Essentially, they pick out the meals they want, and I go shopping, prepare the dishes, freeze them, and deliver them to their homes. That's my main gig. Pays pretty well, and I don't even have to find my own customers. It's all word of mouth. They recommend me to their friends, and I get new clients until I'm at capacity. The point when I turn away new clients is lower than it could be, because I have a side gig. A side gig that I see as beneficial to society, so even though it pays less than taking on more clients, I make time for both. It's a type of community service. I'm really only working as a chef 4 days a week. I can shop, prep, cook, freeze, and deliver meals for enough clients to get by every month in the span of 4 days. The rest of the time, I'm either traveling for my side gig or taking time off. Alright, enough suspense and drum rolling. I'll tell you what my side gig is. Though you should already know from the title. I warn people that they are dark web hit targets. Most of those dark web hitmen for hire are scams. Everyone knows that. But I don't have to spend the time figuring out which are real and which are fraud. Someone else, my employer, does that for me. Whenever they have someone who is in need of saving, they get a signal to me through a previously decided code and method, which I'm not planning to reveal publicly. From that, I can deduce who they are and where they live. The rest is up to me. It's funny, when this first started, I thought none of the threats were real. I thought they were paying me to go and scare some folks into believing they were being hunted by a hitman for hire. I wasn't sure of the motive, but that's what I first thought. That was until I literally ran into the hitman on his way to the target's house. But that's a story for another time. That's not the tale I came here to tell. So, down to the real meat and bones here. I got a message with the name and address of a target. I was checking for a message after delivering my last batch of meals for the week. My employer has impeccable timing. The target lived a couple hours away, across state lines. I jotted down the address in a notepad in a coded language that looks like a grocery list. The code is in case I ever get stopped by the cops. I don't want them finding an address of a murder victim on me if I can't save the target. I grabbed my go bag full of road trip supplies and headed out. During pit stops to gas up, I tried looking them up on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else. This guy was married with 2 little girls and a wife who, let's be honest, was past her prime. Yeah, I know I'm a prick. He was on the chubby side, and it looked like he worked in construction from his bio. He had lots of friends from the community and lots of social photos of him at bars with a bunch of dudes. Very social. Here's the thing about dark web targets. They never scream, "I'm neck deep in the underworld and someone is mad enough to get me killed." They always look normal. I can't look at a target and know what it is they did. Hell, even after I warn them, I don't find out most of the time. Sometimes a target's name will show up with an arrest record online for dealing drugs or other criminal activities, which is why I keep tabs on targets in the future. But sometimes my curiosity just isn't satiated. But because I don't throw a fit, ask questions, or miss my objectives, my employer keeps hiring me. I'm a professional, or I thought I was, until this target. It took me a few hours, but once I arrived on the street, I shot my employer a brief message to update them. It was dusk by then, which was fine by me. Hiding out in my car in the dark was preferable to the middle of the day when people would be looking outside. As is my usual procedure, I parked several houses away to observe, in front of an empty lot. The house was a 2-story building in a nice neighborhood with a fenced-in backyard, rose bushes in the front, and green lawn. The typical 1950s American dream. Construction must pay well. You can guess that my job is delicate. Delicate to the point that it has to be discreet and secretive. I can't just go knock on the front door, tell them their life is in danger, and then walk away. Believe me, I've tried that once, and only once. I have to do some recon, decide the best way to not only inform the target but convince them that they are a target. It's the most essential part of the gig. Like I said, I'm a professional, and I have to make them believe that. From my go bag, I produced a small tube with a wire protruding out of it. I set that on the dashboard and pointed it at the target's home. The other end of the wire was a USB, and I stuck that into a laptop. The tube contained a signal amplifier, which basically lets me turn their weak Wi-Fi signal into one I can use from a distance. It's the first thing I try because if I can get into their Wi-Fi, I can learn a lot about them before I engage. I opened a couple programs on my laptop that were written to brute force their way into common Wi-Fi signals. Most households aren't savvy enough to change their router's default settings, and those that are often don't check the more advanced settings like weak signal encryption. Their Wi-Fi password was their last name with 1234 added at the end. Once I was allowed into the Wi-Fi network, another program checked the router for default login credentials. They never changed that password, so I was in control of their router in a measly 3 minutes. It wasn't a record for the types of intrusions I've done, but it was still fast. I was relieved that I could get control of the network. That makes the recon 1,000 times easier. With yet another program, these are all free and widely available, by the way. I'm not paying anyone for this shit. I put my computer between all the other devices on the network and the router. Every device would now send all requests to my laptop, since they thought my laptop was the router. My laptop would then trick the devices into thinking I was the website they were trying to connect to. Since they thought I was that website, they would hand me the keys to decrypt what they were sending. I would then read the contents and forward their request to the real server and just show them the results. In essence, I was hiding in the back room of their digital post office, opening envelopes to read the contents and then resealing before sending it off to its destination. Encryption is no match for a man-in-the-middle attack. It was really delicate to set this up the first time, but once I had it running, it was easy to deploy again for new networks, like this one. Oven and a truck were in the driveway. Everyone was home for the night. The internet traffic was heavy because they were all home and using the internet. They would notice the slowdown at some point and potentially restart their router, booting me out of the network. I was vulnerable just sitting outside their house, so I had to hope I could collect what I needed before someone wondered what I was doing. For almost 2 hours, I collected their internet traffic. It was well past sunset, dark outside, and late in the evening when I saw a police car casually cruise by. I froze when they passed. My laptop screen was on. They would have seen the light in my car. I was parked in front of an empty lot and far enough from the target house to not be noticed, I thought. But maybe another neighbor had said something. I didn't want to risk being followed and pulled over by leaving just as the cop goes by. Instead, from my glove box, I pulled out a clipboard and rearranged the parts of my cover. Luckily, the police car rounded a corner and disappeared from view. On my screen, a device in the house went to a domain I had set to alert me on. It was a porn site, and one of the seedier ones to boot. I have it set up to alert me of seedy websites that get visited. Sitting up straighter, I paid attention to the traffic going through that site, and noticed something interesting. The device wasn't watching anything. Instead, they had signed in and began doing something else, uploading. I was looking at the screen, porn site open, trying to make sure I was capturing what was getting uploaded. I was so focused that I didn't see the officer approach my car door. I visibly jumped when the police officer knocked on my window. I hit a hotkey on reflex that hid what was on my screen, but I knew he'd seen what I had up. He would have seen the porn site. He had probably been sitting there for a few seconds, just checking what I was doing. I was caught, and it didn't look good. I rolled my window down partially. "Hello, officer," I greeted, keeping my voice steady despite my beating heart. Fuck. "What you doing out here?" the officer asked, turning on a flashlight and pointing it into the car. He eyed my setup with interest. "I'm logging cloud data," I answered. Gloomy night and all. "Cloud data?" he asked, confused. "Oh yes, I'm a contractor with the National Weather Service, out with an infrared cloud density depicker to measure local cloud composition." I shit-talked my way through a pseudo-technical explanation, pointing to the signal amplifier on my dashboard. I presented my work badge with a phony company I had built specially for a cover like this. My shirt had a name tag with the same cover on it. The officer listened, and when I stopped explaining, he considered it all. "Then why were you watching porn when I walked up?" he grilled. My embarrassed expression wasn't fake, but it helped sell the story. I painted myself as an employee stuck out pulling long hours with nothing to do but watch weather data roll in. What else was an employee supposed to do to pass the time? It was a gamble. He could try arresting me on public indecency or something, and then he'd find my real wallet in my pocket. My name would be in a police database somewhere, which was really not ideal. "Listen, I know you're working here, but pick a different street that isn't residential to take your measurements. And don't watch that shit in public," the officer Chasty said. Again, my embarrassment wasn't an act. With that, he let me go. Relief bloomed across my face. I talked my way out, which had been a gamble. I did notice, watching the officer get back in his car through my mirror, that he paused to glance at the target's house on his way back to his car. Interesting, the police were watching the house. But why? Did they know the types of shit he was into that had brought me here? Maybe my job wasn't necessary and the police would nab him before a hitman had the chance. If he was doing criminal shit and the police had caught on to it, I could see how he could make an enemy that wanted him dead before he could squeal on them. But if the police weren't going to raid tonight, the hitman might still have time. Whether or not they decided to risk it with police checking the house was up to them. I packed up my stuff, disconnected from their network, and drove away to cross town. In a Walmart parking lot, I settled in. In my browser, I tuned into the local police radio. Yeah, they just broadcast that shit. I wanted to hear if a raid was starting so I could stay informed on my target. With that running in the background, I sifted through the traffic I had collected. The guy had logged into his Facebook account, and with my man-in-the-middle attack, I had captured his credentials. I checked there first. It always gave good background information. It was in his messages that I found a conversation with that exact officer. His wife was trying to take the kids, he claimed. He said she might try to run in the middle of the night and asked the officer to patrol his neighborhood and give a strong police presence to scare her into staying and not kidnapping the kids. What the fuck? This guy was a regular abuser. It was apparent. But the officer had been a buddy in high school, and they regularly got beers with several other members of the community, including police, so they covered each other's backs. Even if the officer didn't know everything, he had to know there was abuse, right? It was obvious to me. After checking his Facebook, I went back to the porn city he'd visited. My man-in-the-middle attack had picked up those credentials too, so I could log in as this guy and investigate. With a virtual machine running Tor, I logged into the site with the sniffed credentials. Since he had been uploading, I went to his account and checked his uploads. My stomach caught in my throat. Well over 70 uploaded videos. The titles ranged across several themes, mainly involving sexual assault. The videos were marked as private, and I now understand that this porn site was doing something under the table with those videos, selling them off to even seedier sites that could afford to be shut down by police, while the main site operated above board. From a single thumbnail, I knew. His wife, and one of his kids. He was filming it, and selling it. My mouth soured. It became obvious to me that I wasn't going to, in good conscience, give this guy a heads up about the hitman. Not a chance. While considering my options, I kept perusing the data. His wife had been using the internet as well. As it turned out, she was a little technically savvy. I know that because she started running Tor while I talked to the officer. She used it for a simple small message on a board that supplied me with a lot of my targets. It was an address, sent to another member on the board. The entire puzzle clicked into place, and I found myself rooting for the bad guy. She'd be caught, of course. I could see a few mistakes where the police would find out it was her and arrest her. But there wasn't anything I could do. I could warn her of her mistakes, but then she would be back to square one. It was a type of trolley problem. Do you pull the lever to continue the abuse of this woman and her kids? Or do you leave the lever alone and let her ruin her own life by getting arrested and sending kids off to CPS while the piece of shit target gets what's coming to him? In the end, I left the lever alone. And from the news, I was right. He died. She was arrested. His side income was discovered. The kids went into the system. They were safe from him, at least. That's the only comfort I can give myself. It was an impossible situation, is what I tell myself. But now that it's past, I see the things I could and should have done. I could have brought down the FBI on this little Midwestern house. But in the thick of it all, I didn't see that option. It just felt impossible. I still lose sleep over the decision, but it's made. I assumed that my employer didn't know why this guy was being targeted, just that he was a target. I was hired to blindly stop any and all murders from dark web hired hitmen. There's no way they could know the details of every hitman transaction, right? Right? I love weird websites. None of that deep web torture stuff or anything like that. After having a friend accidentally stumble upon a gore clip while exploring on tour, I've learned to stay well away. But you'd be surprised at how many truly interesting sites there are out there. Boardbutton.com was where I found my start. It gives you a nice little sample of unusual web toys, and as I'm sure some of you know, you can easily get captivated for an hour or two just playing around with it. My curiosity grew from there, and I found myself browsing every corner of the internet for sites, videos, and projects that managed to fall into that certain niche of obscurity home to the most interesting of oddities. Surprisingly, I haven't found much fucked up stuff yet. Occasionally I'll uncover some twisted ideas, some gore art or animation, some unsettling plans or details I could have done without. But the vast majority of the stuff I find is cheerful, happy, and entirely fun. A subreddit, the name of which I refuse to share, showed up one day as I was searching for random words and phrases across Reddit. It was very neutral, yet customized to some degree, with a calming blue background and a sidebar image of a lake looking out on a tropical-seeming forest, with a mountain in the distance behind it. Each page of it that I explored was cluttered with computerized garble, mishmashed letters, numbers, and bugged or uncommonly used text symbols. The occasional emoji reared its ugly head among the rest. Occasionally, this letter stew would break up into a jumble of random phrases, likely snipped from other areas of the web. I breathed a sigh of success upon realizing there were no threads asking for clarification. I had been the first to find this oddity. But then, I noticed something interesting about the thread names. After finding nearly every startup oddity website and college student art project that interested me, I turned my attention to more mainstream sites, particularly those with blogging or social media aspects. You can find a surprising amount of weird Facebook pages, Tumblr blogs, YouTube channels, and subreddits. The final category among those was where I managed to come across my most interesting, yet somehow unsettling, find to date. Each thread name was fairly short and consisted of letters either in English or various other languages I recognized, peppered throughout the word slurry. I copied these characters into various tabs of Google Translate and assembled the translations into a completed sentence. Sector 15, finally some headway. In a further attempt to unravel this mysterious and incredibly intriguing subreddit, I tried this with another thread name. Same results, a sector denoted numerically. Slightly lower, as I had chosen one from lower on the page, I decided to check if anyone else was online. I was the only one, as I had expected, but then I noticed that there was somebody subscribed already. I subscribed myself and refreshed the page. My stomach panged. A message was pinned that wasn't before, right there at the top of the pile of threads. Even stranger, it was in coherent English, and read just, product. Product. I clicked on it. It seemed to take me to a different website, but repeated scans of the URL reassured me that it was still Reddit. The format was drastically different, like that of a sleek corporate homepage. I could make out some faint text against the soothing teal background, slightly lighter than the background itself. More computerized mumbo-jumbo, but this time tipped with 2 words. Activation imminent. A pair of obviously computer-rendered lips filled the screen, which had now turned a paler blue. They rose and fell in vague sync with the words they spoke, which were in Polish or some other European language. My gaze fell in disappointment as I couldn't understand what was being spoken, and as if in response the language shifted to an obviously synthesized, yet understandable, female voice speaking English. I would love to tell you how it phrased what it said to me, but try as I might, I can't remember any exacts after that point. Instead, I feel imbued with some sort of vague understanding of what it said. It spoke eloquently, almost melodically, in a way that seemed to fill a hole in my being I had never heard of nor felt before. It spoke of the truths of life, of happiness and sorrow, of wisdom and guidance. It assured me that from that point on in my life, I would never be unguided in my actions. Perhaps there's some weight to that. Ever since, I've been noticing changes in my behavior, sort of like spasms that I can't fully control. I'll lose any feeling of motion or action for a couple minutes at a time, just sort of watching what this outer version of myself does. Then we merge again, and I feel normal. It's quite dreamlike, really. But here's why I'm so unsettled. These episodes of lucid helplessness have been becoming more frequent, and I feel a crushing rift forming between 2 parts of me. My soul and my body are growing uncomfortable with each other and are beginning to separate. And as this rift grows, I notice flaws in the world and in the structure of matter. Sure, there are little inconsistencies, but I can't scrap the feeling that they're building up to something. I'm certain my body will take over quite shortly, so I bid you all adieu. Well, as you've read the title, my name's Paul and I own a dark web courier business. It's not big and I usually don't take in people I don't know. It's usually the same old customers and almost never new ones. I take my customers' privacy very seriously, therefore I don't know much about them. The reason why I'm writing this is because something happened yesterday, and I'm not sure what to do. So this brings me to my story. I'll start this story with the only logical place, the beginning. I've always been curious, and I've been a little introverted since I started school. Not sure why, it just happened to be. Due to my introvert nature, I didn't have many friends in school, so I usually just browsed the web. Though I started to get bored of the regular old clear web. Sure, it did help with the small itch, but when time started to pass, it just didn't do the trick. That's when I learned about Tor. The gateway to the unknown is how I like to see it. Now, I'm sure everyone has heard about the dark web and the stories surrounding them. Some of them are true, but most of them are just bullshit. If you see the dark web as the Walmart of drugs, firearms, and hitman services, you'd be right. But it's much, much more than that. Actually, most of it is pretty basic and regular old forums talking to people that can type anything they'd like. It's an uncensored part of the clear web. This is where my story began, with the forums. After you've been on NTP-chan for a while, you start to learn your way around the block. So for those of you who don't know, NTP-chan is a forum of sorts. You can find the answer to basically any question in existence. This is where I met my first customer. Let's call this guy Jack. So Jack, he's one of the regulars and I don't know much about him. All I know is that he too owns a business here on the web. I have no idea what this guy does or anything about it. All I know is that I deliver his packages here in my hometown. I take them, deliver them to their respective addresses, and be on with it. I pick up the packages at random dead drop locations. I drop them off and get paid through crypto. I'm getting ahead of myself now. Let's start over. So Jack, I met him on NNTP Shan. He messaged me after a post I made about working in the local area and asked me if I was searching for work. I mean, I was skeptical about him, but what do you expect from me? Anyway, I told him that I did. Next thing I know, he messaged me a link to a website. This website was weird? No, unusual. This website was all black with an address written in the middle of the screen with the text, "The handicap toilet under the sink." I looked for it quickly before the website got shut down. Next thing I know is the sound of a message coming from Jack. 1 o'clock Friday. Don't be late. You'll know where to go when you pick up the package. My first thought was, what the fuck have I gotten into? But I did need the money. I've had troubles with money, and as a poor student, a little extra cash on the side couldn't hurt. So, long story short, I did as asked. On Friday, I went to the address which I've decided not to include due to the privacy of my customers. Anyway, the address that I went to was an old gas station at the edge of my small town. And just as Jack had said, the package was under the sink in the handicap toilet. It wasn't that big. It was a small envelope with a wax seal on it, almost exactly like those you can see in movies or in the library. On my way out, a man grabbed my arm and told me a new address. Go to redacted 33A, ask for Mr. Williams, and tell him that the sun's up today, shining splendidly over the lake. Then he just let my arm go and walked into the handicap bathroom. I was a bit stunned at this, but I didn't think much of it. So I did as instructed and biked over to the address given to me from the man in the gas station and knocked on the door. A large man with a long lumberjack-type beard and a face filled with acne scars opened the door. I mean, this man was huge, probably 6'4" or maybe 6'5" even. It took me a while to grasp the man's appearance before I finally said in a trembling and a little awkward voice, I'm looking for Mr. Williams. Is he here possibly? The huge lumberjack-looking guy stared into my soul for what felt like minutes before he turned around and called out for a guy named Joe. Not his real name, but I will do. Joe, there's some punk here to see you, he muttered. A few seconds later, a slim, fairly average height man came to the door and looked at me. Mr. Williams, I presume. I said I was trying to sound confident. The man just nodded at me. The sun's up today, shining splendidly over the lake, I said with a bit of unease in my voice while holding out the envelope I had taken from the gas station. The man in front of me, Mr. Williams, looked at me for a few seconds before responding, "Surely it is a splendid day to take a swim." Before I could react, he snatched the envelope and shut the door on me. I must add that I was a bit confused by what just happened, but I learned later how that came, but that's another story for later. I quickly returned to my bike and biked home. When I came home, I saw that I had an unread message on NetBeacon. It was Jack, as I suspected. The message read as follows. Well done. The payment has been submitted to your past-stated crypto address. I will be in touch if you're interested in working some more. Before I could answer, I had a new payment on my crypto vault. And there it was, a payment of €350. Holy shit, I said silently to myself. I know what you're thinking. Only €350. Well, shut up. For me at this time it was huge. I was a poor student, so leave me alone. So now that we have established my financial supremacy, we can continue. Jokes aside, I was poor and I needed the cash. Let's leave it like that. I quickly sent a message back to Jack. Fuck yeah, man. I'll take everything. Looking back at it now, I kind of regret that statement. For an example, do you understand how fucking hard it is to clean up after some weird liquid that dripped from the pallet the other day? Or that time when I had the police search my whole storage facility due to some suspicious marks on one of the boxes I received a few days before. So I told the officers that they can't search my premises without a warrant and probable cause. So the officers turned around and never came back. As I have stated before, I take my customers' privacy extremely serious. Now, I don't usually ask what's in the package if it's not something that's in need of special attention, and if so, I don't ask what's in them, rather I ask what special care it needs. I try to refrain from knowing too much. Those damn cops aren't going to get anything out of me. Anyway, I continued working for Jack. He's, well, one of the regulars. He always wants something delivered on Fridays each week, never to the same house or block. Always in different parts of the town. The only consistent thing is that it's always that same looking envelope, that pale white one with that red wax stamp. I try not to think about it, but I'm certainly curious about what's inside of it. I'll get back to all of you some other day. I have a lot more to tell you about my work, but right now it's Friday, and I got a delivery to make. You guessed it, it's from Jack as always, but this time it's not an envelope like before. It's a pearl white box with the writing, "To the man who supplies." I'm not sure what that means, and I'm not sure if I want to. Something is telling me that it's not my business, but I'm a curious one. Always has been. Note to the listener of this story. I need advice from you guys. That damn box is eating away at my curiosity. What should I do? I'm tempted to open it. I really am. Yours sincerely, Paul. Let me tell you about these past days. It's driving me insane. I've read all of your comments on the last post, and most of you told me not to open it. Something we have to consider, though, and I forgot to add the detail that this package doesn't have an address on it, nor does it have a name. It just says, "To the man that supplies nothing else." I'm not sure what I should do with it, but I have it in my storage facility. I'll try to contact Jack and tell him that I need an address, or that I will be throwing this thing out if he doesn't respond in the coming day or so. Today's story is going to be a little longer than the last one. It seems that you enjoy a longer one, so without further ado, enjoy. I thought I'd tell you a little bit more about myself. Not that anybody asked, but it will help you understand how I think better if you do know me a little. So I'm a bit introverted, which you already know. What you might also know from my general reaction about everything that happened so far. So you might have noticed that I'm a bit paranoid at times. I, however, like to not call it paranoia. I'd rather say that I'm extremely careful. That's a big difference. Something else that you'll need to know is that I think way too much. I like to think that my brain does most of the work, while my emotions stay out of it. But that kind of back speaks to my curiosity. If you want to know what I look like, that I will not disclose to you due to my own safety. With me sharing these stories will make me a, let's call it, target for some unwanted attention and friendly visits. I'm not sure what to do, really. I've gotten some unwanted speculators outside of my storage facility recently. First time in a few months, actually. Anyway, I'm not sure what will happen. I posted the last post just before Now that current events are all set and you're all caught up with that, let me tell you more about my other clients. Let's call the next one Miranda. Miranda, you see, she's one of the bigger customers I have, and she pays a lot. I'm not talking about college money. We're talking about life-changing amounts of money each year. So you guys might think about my storage facility and why I have it if I'm just a courier. Well, sometimes the pickup day and the delivery date don't add up, so I have to keep it for a while for an extra fee, of coursey, no freebies. That the days don't add up rarely happens, but with Miranda, it's probably once a month or so. Her packages vary all the time. Sometimes I'm looking at a small ring-sized box, and sometimes I need a whole truck just to fit the damn thing. The strange thing is that the deliveries are never to any houses or people for that matter. I leave them at the same location each time. Now I don't know what she does for a living and I get paid enough to not care, so I'm not even going to speculate. But the location, who I won't put in name, but I can describe it for you, or I'll do my best at least. This place where I make all deliveries is an old abandoned warehouse about 3 hours outside of my town. That probably doesn't tell you a lot, but 2 hours from my town you haven't even passed by a major city. I think the military used to use this old warehouse for storage back during World War II, but again, I'm not sure. Anyhow, the storage facility is overgrown and huge. I'm talking about a vehicle warehouse size, and it's just empty. Sometimes I make deliveries multiple times a day for Miranda, but every single time I get back there, no matter how large the package is, it's always empty. I've thought about checking the place out to see who comes and picks the damn things up, but as I've said before, the privacy of my customers is my priority. Furthermore, with Miranda, she's the one I know most about for some reason. She asked me for advice a few times about social events and stuff like that. Now I know I shouldn't give any advice of that sort due to my introvert nature, but hey, coaches don't play right. Back to Miranda. So the things I've noticed is that she must be pretty high up socially. I mean, she's going to fancy parties around the capital and other major cities in my country. She also seems to be an entrepreneur of sorts too, due to her way around economics when me and her are talking business. Seems kind of weird to me, but again, she pays enough to make me not question it. All right. It's been about a day since I wrote that last section in this post, and I'm writing this from my desk, trying to figure out what to do with this damn thing. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself again. There's 2 major things have happened since the last post. Let's start off with Miranda. Now, Miranda, as I said, is the person I know most about, or so I thought. This probably doesn't make sense to you, but let me tell you that this got me concerned. I got a letter addressed to me, not Paul, which is only the name I use in business, but actually my name, addressed to me. How the fuck do they know my name? I spat out. Now this gave me the creeps, since I am very, very serious with being anonymous. I decided to open the letter. Now this letter was nothing special. I'm not sure how to explain it. It was the most ordinary letter I've ever seen. It's hard to even explain it. It was the most perfect, non-perfect letter ever. It was written in the most beautiful cursive I've ever seen. It said, "To redacted from Miranda." Of course it didn't say Miranda, but due to privacy, I'm not going to disclose her real name. Now this got me curious, so I opened it. All it said was, "We need to talk." I can't tell you much over this letter, so meet me at 131 Redacted Street 12, and I'll tell you everything, Miranda. Now I'll tell you, this really piqued my interest. In hindsight, I should have just rubbed this off and dropped Miranda as a client. Yes, I know I shouldn't have gone. Yes, I know it was stupid even at the time of doing it. But can you blame me? Tell me right now that you wouldn't have, so my curiosity got the better of me. They say that curiosity killed the cat, and I don't believe that's just a saying at this point. So let me get you through what happened. 04:30 a.m. I took one of the clean business cars and started driving. I obviously needed a clean car and some kind of backstory to tell my parents on why I'm driving for a solid day to meet up with someone, so I just simply told them that I had a business meeting down south and had to drive down to meet with a potential supplier. Now, this wasn't all false, so it was an easy lie to sell. What can I say? I've become pretty damn good at lying at this point. 07:45 p.m., so a long day's drive. Just arrived in the city of the meet. I haven't had time to check my phone or anything, but I'm sure I've missed a lot. I'm going to scout out the place before going in. I don't want to be surprised. 08:00 p.m. I've just arrived at the building, and it's a newly built house at the coastline. Now, I'm no architect, but it looks damn expensive to build. The house is matte gray with large windows covering one of the house's walls and a large garage right next to it, connected to the house with a small flat roof. Now I've scouted this place. I had a pretty decent idea of what the house was and what type of area I was in. So I went in, anxious like a student before a massive test you haven't studied for. I knocked at the door. 1 knock. What the fuck am I even doing? 2 knocks. Should I just leave and stop the business with her? Just when I was about to knock the 3rd time, a tall, blonde, and pretty good-looking woman opened the door. She eyed me up and down and asked, "Are you Paul?" with a serious face. "Yes," I answered weakly. "Good," she responded. She invited me into the house and we sat down on the sofa. "Do you know why you're here?" she asked while not leaving my gaze. "No?" "It said in the letter that everything would be explained here," I answered with a confused face. She looked for me a while before saying, "So, I'll be sending a package that's very important to me." She stood up and walked to the window, gazing out at the open waters. "Can I trust that you will take care of it?" she said bluntly. I thought about it for a moment, but before I could answer, she said, "It'll pay good. Double the usual," she said, and turned around looking at me. I was stunned. Double the normal amount was insanely high, so I got even more curious about what it is. "What is it?" I asked curiously. "Nothing of your business. All you need to know is that it's very, very valuable to me, so I need it delivered quickly and safely. Understood?" I thought about it for a while before I answered. "Understood," I said confidently. She stood quiet for a while before she said, "It's good to have someone to trust, and if you do this for me, I owe you one." We just stood silent for a while before she said, "I'll be in touch. I will tell you one day before the package arrives at yours." I nodded and walked back to my car. When I closed the door to my car, I just thought over everything that just happened before I drove home. Not a lot happened after that, really, and it was pretty peaceful. Besides, well, Jack, now I told you in the beginning of this post that there were 2 major events that happened during these days. Well, this was the second, so this is where my anxiety and paranoia kicks in real fucking hard. So you guys remember that package I asked if I should open? Well, I decided not to, so I didn't get an answer from Jack about it. It was just quiet. So I decided to throw it out right before I drove down to meet with Miranda. So you could have guessed what was waiting for me at the exact same place as I picked up that box. It was a new one that looked the same. Exact same text and everything. I don't know what to do with it. I mean, to the man who supplies. What the fuck is that even supposed to mean? I tried to message Jack again asking about that fucking package. No response again. So, my anxiety level was at top, and I didn't want anything to do with this damn package. So I did the exact same thing as last time. I threw it out. Now, what was I supposed to do with it? I mean, it's not addressed to me, is it? Why would it be me? It wouldn't make sense. The man who supplies, what do I supply? I'm just a damn courier. And besides that, who would send me anything? They already pay for the services. That's more than enough for me. Now today it's Friday, and Friday is supposed to be a pickup from Jack. So I drove down to the gas station and went into the handicapped toilet as I usually did. But under the sink, there was no envelope. It was a note, and it read, "Paul, why haven't you opened my gift? I thought you trusted me more than that. Anyway, I'd like you to go talk to the cashier. They have how should I say it? A special offer for you. We have always been pleased with your quality of work, so we want you to do something for us." I read the note as I stood in the toilet, comprehending what I just read. Fuck, not now, I said to myself. This wouldn't have been a big deal if it wasn't for the job that I was supposed to get from Miranda. I mean that I needed my whole attention to perform. She did say that it was very valuable for her, so I certainly don't want to lose it. Who knows what she can do to me if it gets lost or damaged? I didn't want to take that risk. Anyway, back to the gas station. I followed what the note had said. I walked up to the cashier and he looked at me with a serious face. "Hey man, what's up?" I said with confidence. The cashier just looked at me and nodded towards the door in the back. So I did as I was told and went into the back of the station. When I entered the back door, I was greeted by two large dudes almost looking like your average bouncer outside of the clubs. They were huge. They closed the door behind me as I proceeded to the manager's office. "Thank you for coming," I heard a voice say right before I went into the office. I turned around sharply to look at a short, fat man who seemed to be around his 30s or 40s. He proceeded to usher me into the office, so I assumed this was the manager. He signed me to sit down while he went and poured 2 glasses of whiskey and placed one of the glasses in front of me. "Hello, Paul, my name's Jack," he said while taking a sip of his whiskey. "I got a gift for you, old friend." He proceeded to open a drawer by the desk. I just sat quiet, waiting for him to get to the point. I had literally no idea what I should have done, and I honestly don't know even after what was the right choice. Jack continued to take up a box. I recognized it right when I saw it. "What the fuck is that?" I said, quite annoyed to Jack. "It's a gift," he said, and placed the box on the desk on the right of me. "I need you for something," he said with a small grin on his face. "You're delivering packages by a competitor of mine. I'd like you to do one final delivery for her," he said with a serious face again. "It has come to my knowledge that a package is going to arrive at your establishment," he said with a lack of a better word. "I'd like you to take it and put it in this box," he said while looking at me. He finished his drink and signed for me to do the same. "Can you do that for me?" he asked while staring into my soul. Now I don't know what to answer to this. I'm sure that if I didn't agree, I wouldn't come out of this damn place alive. So I did what any sensible person would do. "Yes, for the right price," I said with a smirk. Jack looked at me for a solid minute with not even a blink before he spoke again. "1 million, he said, looking at me. Holy shit, I thought to myself, trying not to show my excitement. Now that was a lot of money, I'll tell you. It was far more than what Miranda had offered me to take care of the package. This is where the internal debate began. Should I take it or should I stay true to my word with Miranda? I had no idea what to say, so I just said, "Sure thing, boss," while I sat back in the chair. Jack looked at me and nodded slowly. "Good, we'll be in touch when you have the package," he said while pouring another glass for himself and offering me one. I declined the extra glass and thanked him for the opportunity and left the gas station. It's now evening and I'm sitting at my desk looking at a small box sent by Miranda, just staring at it, trying to decide what to do. I'll update you all when I've decided what I should do. I guess it's going to be another long night with no sleep. Edit. I messaged Miranda this night, shit's spiraling out of control. I'll update you all when, or rather if I can. If I can't, well, thanks for reading. Sincerely yours, Paul. Before I start this story, I just want to thank you all for your support. I understand that some of you might have been concerned for my safety, and therefore I'm obliged to tell you that I'm fine. Actually, more than fine, but I'll tell you more about that later. I also saw a comment that told me that you didn't know what to do with the package, so you threw it away, twice, knowing what these people are like and how expensive everything seems to be. No one would do that. I'm sorry, that's ridiculous and completely idiotic. Now, I can't blame you. I understand why you're telling me that my choice to do so was idiotic. It would have been if it weren't for the cops that had started to pop up outside of my warehouse. This was what I meant with unwanted attention and friendly visits. So when I get a package with no address, and when I ask people around about it and get no answer, I just assume that it's there to expose me, kill me, or hurt me. Now that I've explained that, let's get into today's story. I fucked up. Not your regular old oopsies I came late to work kind of fuck up. Rather, oopsie I'll probably get tortured until I die in front of people on the dark web kind of fuck up. Before I tell you about my fuck up, let me warn you. Never make a deal that fucks someone over. Not sure if you understood me, but never make a deal that fucks someone over, especially if it's on the dark web. Yet again, I don't recommend you being on the dark web. Sure, it might be boring, but boring and alive is much better than excited and dead. Don't make my mistake. No amount of money is worth dying for. Or that was a lie. Everyone has a price. This was mine, so it's been a little hectic since my last post. Everything has gone downhill since then. But let me start with the beginning of everything. It's the morning after I got that fucking package. I haven't been able to sleep tonight, so I've decided to do this all right. It might not be the smartest fucking idea I've had in my entire life, but I had to screw over someone. So I decided to message Miranda. I made a deal with her first. She was the better paying of them over time. I know I'm greedy, but hell, if I'm risking my fat ass for something, I'd rather do it for money than morale. Judge me as much as you want. I don't fucking care now. It's already been done. Off track again, fuck. I need to write it down. If not, my story will never be heard. Well, I messaged Miranda. Hey Miranda, it's Paul. We need to fucking talk. Right now, call me when you can. And God is my witness, she answered in what felt like seconds. Shit, all right. I'm in the area. I'll meet you. Come to the place you drop off the packages for me. 1 hour. Don't be late. And there was nothing more to it. Before I left, I packed up my laptop, burner phones, and made some sandwiches. I wasn't planning on actually coming back. Before I left, I took out the .45 ACP I had under the desk in case of some hooligans trying to get to me. After quickly packing down the gun, I took the small box that I had received from Miranda and went on my way to the location given to me. Upon arrival, I saw a gathering of cars outside the old warehouse, and as I proceeded to park my car beside one of the vehicles standing there, I picked up my gun and tugged it down the back of my pants. I walked in to be greeted by Miranda. Hey, Paul. Thanks for meeting up. Do you have the package? She said with a cheery voice. Yeah, I do. What is in this damn thing that made Jack willing to pay a fortune to get it? I asked in a serious tone. Well, since you didn't fuck me over, she said as she gestured to give her the box. I hesitated for a second before I slowly handed her the package. Thank you, she said while inspecting the box for damage. She opened the box and took out a small glass box with metal corners. Inside of the glass box was a small purple-black ball that looked to be pulsating. This, she said while shaking the little box, this is the first confirmed black matter piece created by humans. I just stood with a confused face. You're kidding, right? I said with a small chuckle. Her face went all serious in an instant, almost like I had offended her just by asking. Yes, of course I'm serious, she said in an annoyed tone. How? Why? Why me? I said, confused. Well, she said while putting the glass box down. I've never had an issue with you or your deliveries the past year, so I didn't think it would be now. She sounded genuine. I just nodded and said, What should we do about Jack? If we do nothing, I'll be dead. I said seriously, almost threatening. Miranda just looked at me with a straight face, not breaking an inch. We probably stood there for a solid minute or so before she finally spoke. I think it's time to change the management at Jack's organization, she said with a half smile. She nodded to one of the guards that were there to come over. She continued to whisper something in his ear before looking back at me. I need your help. I need you to lure Jack out. Do you know what to do with that box you told me about? Not sure, I said, thinking what to do next. I suppose I'll message Jack and ask. I continued. She nodded and I started to write to Jack. Hey man, so I got what I promised you. What do you want me to do with it? I typed out before clicking send. It didn't take longer than a few seconds before I got a message back. Perfect, let's meet at the gas station. He wrote back to me. He wants to meet up, I said to Miranda. She thought about it for a while before speaking. Then so be it, she said before using me along to another room. She pulled out an empty glass box exactly like the other one before dropping down a marble on the small stand that the glass box contained. This should do it, she said with a smirk and handed me the box. Give him this, she said, not stopping to smirk. Now I thought this was fucking crazy. But what choice did I have? I had already played my hand with Miranda. So I went to the gas station. Before I even pulled up to the gas station, I got a strange feeling in my gut. It's hard to explain. It was almost like a primal instinct kicked in that told me to get away from there as fast as I could bear. Now, since I must be fucking stupid, I didn't listen to my gut. I continued to pull up to the gas station. I walked up to the cashier, but before I even could open my mouth, something hit me in the back of the head. Fuck, man, why did you hit him so fucking hard? The boss told us to keep him alive. I heard a deep voice say. Shut the fuck up, Roger. You do it next time if it's so fucking easy, eh? The other man said with a harsh tone. He's starting to wake up, said Roger. I tried to move, but my hands and legs were tied up, so I just kind of wobbled on the concrete floor like a fish on land or a snake stuck on ice. They continued to drag me, and I must have hit my head again because I passed out just to wake up in what looked like a basement. I was still tied up, of course, and I could hear people talking outside. The boss will come any second, a male voice said. Yeah, this show is going to be fantastic, said another guy outside the door. Both people started laughing until I heard what sounded like gunfire outside. Hey, what was that? Said the first guy. I don't know, man. I'll go check it out, the second guy said. Not long after I heard two heavy thuds. Something I can just assume was the two guards falling to the floor. The basement door slowly crept open as a dark figure stood at the doorway with a silenced gun in its hand. Now I was scared for my life. I thought it was me this guy was after. So I started crawling the best I could the other way from this figure. Now I've been hit pretty damn hard in my head, so my vision was a bit faded. I mean, shit, it still is. I was more scared than I have ever been when he came down those stairs. It felt like hours as he took one step. Why the fuck did I get myself into this shit? 2 steps. Man, I regret it. I regretted all 3 steps. Leave me the fuck alone, I yelled at the figure walking towards me. I'm not here to hurt you, the figure said in a deep voice, probably the deepest I've ever heard. We did promise you safety, the figure said. What the fuck does this person mean? Safety? Who promised me fucking safety? The boss wants to talk to you, the figure said. I was easily picked up by the figure. I tried to get away as much as I could, but it got me in a strong grip. I was put in the back of a van, and we drove for, I don't even know how long. I fell back and forth out of consciousness on the trip, but we finally arrived. I blinked frantically, trying to adjust to the light outside the van. You all right, man? A female voice said. Miranda? I said, confused. Hey guys, can you cut those things off? Let him move, Jesus. I heard the female voice say, to what I assumed was the figure from before. Yes, of course, ma'am, the figure said. He proceeded to cut the rope around my hands and legs, and I could feel my muscles loosen its tension. Thank you, I mumbled harshly. The female that I now could see clearer was Miranda. I couldn't believe it. I was going to live. It's over, Miranda said. Jack won't be a problem for none of us anymore. Thank you. I owe you, she said with a soft smile. Now that all that is over, I got a proposition for you, she said with a grin. So I have to stop here and tell you something that has a lot of value to what I'm about to tell you. So you guys don't know yet what I studied. If this was yesterday, I'd prefer not to say, but as you know, it's not yesterday. Anyway, I studied molecular physics at a prestigious university in northern Sweden. Yes, also a thing that you guys didn't know about me yet. I also studied astrophysics in my spare time, so yes, you could say that I'm fairly smart. Now that that's over, I'll get back to the story. Miranda ushered me forward into this cabin at a lakeside. We walked into a large dinner table that was too big for the room. She looked at me with that serious face she had when we talked business. I'd like to offer you a position at a project that's going to change the future. I could need your expertise in let's call it a project of mine, she said, with that same smirk as before. I thought about it for a second because I don't want to be dragged into some crazy shit as I just got dragged into it, but I had to ask. What project? I asked, with a serious face, not really convinced on the whole project idea yet. She looked around for a bit and nodded to the guards to leave the room. It must have been minutes before she finally decided to speak. Time travel, she said, looking at me like it was something that she had been holding in forever. I understand how it sounds, but I'm not joking. That little piece of dark matter will change the world, she said, and glared up into the distance like she was dreaming herself away. Money won't be a problem. Me and my organization got enough to last you 1,000,000 lifetimes. She continued, not leaving her gaze. What's the catch? I said jokingly while giving her a little smile. You're going to have to leave everything behind and never look back, she said, not looking at me with a slightly sad expression. We sat quiet for a while before I finally told her. Where do I sign up? So tell me that this isn't something you'd say yes to also. Sure, you're going to basically stop existing publicly, and all your family will think you've died. But sometimes life is too short to pass upon opportunities that present itself in the worst times possible. My dad always told me to do the things I thought were impossible, and this certainly was considered impossible. So I'll be in touch if I discover the universe's final secret. Until then. Sincerely yours, Paul. Listeners, please beware. This message is an automatic voice message and could be flawed due to hasty time station errors. Trans Time Script takes no further responsibility for the following message, and all complaints are to be forwarded directly to headquarters at 4137 Armstrong Avenue, Latilia Valley, Mars. Our in-office times are as follows. Monday, Thursday, 07:45, 16:45. Fridays, 12 14:30. Saturday, closed. Sunday, closed. If you need assistance in an emergency situation, please refer to the safety protocol found on the backside of your Trans Time Script machine. Start transcript. God damn it, stupid machine. Please fucking work for once. Ancient piece of shit, is how it sounded before I started typing this message out. Now I get that you might be a little bit confused right now, but you shouldn't. Everything is fine here. Now I'm not sure which date or even year it is for you. I was planning on hitting this around 8 p.m. on the 20th of June 2022. Hopefully I've hit it right. If not, tough shit. Who am I joking? I know this went through at the right time. I mean, it was me. Now, as you've probably already figured out, I made it. Haha. I invented time travel. Suck it, Einstein. Alright, it might have been a bit of a road there and not as fluent as you'd like, but hey, fuck you. You didn't invent it. I make the rules. So, it's pretty damn simple now. You press a button and then, poof, you're where you want. Isn't that cool? Alright, there is more to it then, that now time travel isn't exactly viable yet, and I've only managed to send messages back in time so far, which you're reading right now. So that's pretty cool, I guess. Now, it's been pretty chill since we last spoke. It feels like forever. Now, for me, it's been almost 30 years, but for you, it's only been a few hours a day-ish, right? Anyway, You guys might want to know how this even happened, and let me tell you. So Miranda, she's, well, dead. Now, Miranda happened to be a very good friend of mine, so I was saddened by this, to be honest. So I will not speak about this any further, because if I do, I know I would have stopped it. Now, you all have some questions about the future, so let me answer some of them for you. To begin with, games. Yes, most of the questions were actually about games, and I have two things to say about it. First of all, nerd. Second of all, you've jinxed it. So Half-Life 3? No, that's not happening. They teased it to get some funding, then the developers cashed out and ran with the cash. GTA 6 actually happened, but it was delayed out the window, and the game was mostly shit, to be honest. They decided to link GTA Online between GTA 6 and GTA 5, so it was basically the same game. Kinda sad. There were also some worries about me going back in time and making them not exist. Now, how important that would be or not does not really interest me. All I can say about it is simple. Watch your back. I might go back just to smack you to make you be on edge again. Now, jokes aside, let me tell you about the development of the TransTime script. Now, this was my genius idea. Hopefully you all got the joke. You know, transcript and time cause it's time travel. Yeah, you get it, man, I've gotten older. I remember how my younger self hated that joke, therefore I had to do it again. Now, the development of this has been kept in secret as part of the deal with Miranda when I got this damn job. Now I've been officially DAD ever since that day I took that job. Everyone thinks I got killed in a gas explosion at my warehouse. Both me and Miranda thought this was a genius idea, and it just so happened to be just that. So you see, I have had a grand time up until this very moment, actually, because I've been trying to send this message probably around 1 million times by now over the whole development phase. So if this is the one that went through, whoop whoop. Let me tell you about this apparatus. This thing looks like an old PC from the 90s with a built-in screen. It has what we call a FDR, or flux disk reader. Now, these flux disks are amazing, I'm telling you. They're about the same size as a microchip, but can fit up to 1 petabyte of storage so far. Now, these disks are what I use to send this message. They're all different from each other and is also one of my own little inventions. This machine doesn't have a keyboard, though. It only has a screen that shows the information you need and nothing more. So you can't really browse the internet through it, nor can you really do anything with it besides that. It's not that exciting looking at it like that, but trust me, it's pretty dope. So today's story comes as a warning rather than a brag about time travel. You see, only one of these messages came through out of the thousands that I sent out. Now we got a response, and it wasn't from me. This is how it read. Log entry NRC14WT3R76509. Hello? Is there anyone there? If you can hear me, please help me. I've been stuck here for centuries. Please help. Fuck, I should have never agreed to this shit. Fuck. Transmission ended. Now this really had me spooked up. Who the fuck would even know about this thing besides me? I'm the only one that knows about this. The others in the team don't know what we do here. They mostly do calculations without knowing what the end goal is. So you see why this had me spooked, but this wasn't the creepiest part. I got this message a few days ago too. Log entry NRC423R76510. Come on, you fucking idiot. It's me, Big Red. Can you please fucking help me? I'm going insane in here. Transmission ended. Now this really made me scared shitless, so you see I'm Big Red. It's what my dad always used to call me when I was, well, officially alive. But you see, Big Red is what I usually want to call myself on the internet or in other anonymous situations. Fuck me, I said out loud in my office when I read this the first time. You see, there's a few options to what has actually happened, and none of them is good. Now, these are my two hypotheses that I think are equally likely, or, well, I guess unlikely. Hypothesis 1. The first hypothesis is that I've managed to make a time loop of sorts when trying to send out these messages. So basically, when you send something back in time, what you actually do is that you create an exact copy of that timeline. So everything is identical from start to finish on this line besides this exact little thing. That one of the timelines managed to receive a message and the other didn't. Now this means basically that we split time in two, which could result in one of them getting tangled. Now if the one where I have successfully invented the trans-time script gets tangled up, it could create an infinite loop where time repeats the exact same over and over again, while the person in the loop keeps living the same moments. The body doesn't deteriorate or anything, but the mind remembers everything. Almost like Groundhog Day, you know, that old movie from 1993 with Bill Murray and Andy McDowell? Perhaps not. Anyway, this would result in that the other me of sorts would try to contact out of this loop to try to get it resolved, not knowing how to. Now, some of you might know the issue here. If that me doesn't know how to, why would I think that this me could? Point proven. Hypothesis 2. Now, the second hypothesis is actually pretty simple. I've managed to contact myself, but from the future, where I've perhaps been able to invent human travel through time. If this is the case, I've made a grave mistake and probably gotten myself in a messed up time paradox. If that happens, tough luck me. Now, that second option would be, well, tragic. For me. Now, the second hypothesis is more likely in my unprofessional opinion, but I guess it's exactly the same probability to be. The only thing that's certain is that I wish to be in the timeline where it works out, and not the timeline where, well, you know. So, Paul, this is for you. Don't mess with time. You don't know the precautions on what you're about to do. You're messing with forces that you know nothing about. Even to this day, you still don't know shit. When you start messing with time, you start messing with existence. The only reason why I still do this is because of Miranda. Well, the only reason why we're still doing this is because of Miranda. You'll understand one day when you're older. Now to you readers. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you have the option to travel in time or mess with things you get a bad feeling about, listen to that bad fucking feeling, all right? Those feelings, dude, are the things that keep you alive, dumbass. That's the feelings that is carved into your DNA to keep you out of danger. Also, before I forget, Paul, don't listen to the man with the Transmission ended. Now, that post yesterday really had me spooked. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been feeling watched lately, which is particularly odd due to the fact that I'm working alone in a basement with no windows. I usually just shrug it off like it was nothing but that last post from myself. It had me startled. You see, I wasn't planning on writing anything for a while, but it seems that God, or whatever, got other plans for me. Now, who is that man I was talking about? Why shouldn't I trust him? When will I meet this figure? These were just a few of the questions I had after reading that last post. Right now I'm trying to figure this thing out, so I'm reading it back and forth until loud knocks could be heard from the glass door behind me. "Hey, Paul, get your ass out here. I need you to meet someone," I heard Miranda shout from outside the door. "Coming right away," I shouted back as I quickly closed the laptop. Now, I can't say I didn't flinch when I heard the knocking from Miranda. I probably visibly jumped a little from my chair as the knocking was heard. I'm usually not the type to get easily spooked, but it was something unnerving about the warning that I just couldn't shake. I brushed off the light heart attack I just endured and walked out of my lab. "Finally," Miranda said as she stood up to meet me. "Let me introduce you to my business partner, Jacob," she said with a half smile and that cheering tone she usually has. Now, Jacob wasn't that tall. He had dark hair with a few gray hairs sticking out, bright blue eyes, and he was wearing a long trench coat. Jacob could use one less sandwich, but he wasn't fat by any means. He was what people would describe as chubby. "Nice to meet you, sir," I said, and gave the man a firm handshake. "Hey there, nice grip, kid," he said with a slight chuckle. "Thank you," I said while giving Miranda a slightly awkward look before I took a few steps back from Jacob. We should probably get going, Miranda said to Jacob. Before the left, Miranda turned around and gave me an understanding wink, like she had just saved me from an awkward position. I mouthed a quiet thank you before I returned to the lab to continue my studies. Not long after this, I was interrupted with a knock on my door. I turned around to see Jacob standing outside the glass door, gesturing to me to unlock it. I walked over the door and he locked it before returning back to the soldering iron. "Nice place you got here. What are you working on?" Jacob said enthusiastically. "Nothing special," I said, not taking my eyes off the modem I was soldering. "What's this then?" Jacob asked curiously. I turned around to see what he was looking at, and it was then I realized who the man I had warned myself for was. I solidified on the spot. What? How? Why shouldn't I trust him? I thought to myself. My thoughts were going haywire at this point. Miranda trusts him, so why shouldn't I? I asked myself. Snap. 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 It was Jacob. He snapped his fingers in front of my face. "Hey, you good there, buddy? You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, looking at me with a strange look. Yeah, I mustered out. "I have to go," I said hastily as I got my bag with the laptop and walked out of the lab. "Hey, was all I could hear from Jacob before I had exited the room. I hastily walked through the long underground hallway that led to a massive dinner hall. I rounded the pillar at the back of the dining hall to Miranda's office. I opened her door without even knocking and closed it hastily. "We need to talk," I said with what I thought was a serious face. "You all right there, Paul?" Miranda asked, slightly concerned. "You look like you've just seen a ghost," she said, both a little worried and intrigued at the same time. "I've done it," I said. "What do you mean? Have you done it? Or what?" She said, surprised and excited. "Yes, I mean no. Fuck, it's hard to explain," I said, waving my arms in the air like a madman. All right, calm down," Miranda said, gesturing me to sit down at the chair in front of her desk. "Tell me what's up," she said, leaning back into the chair. So I told her everything. "Wow," she stuttered before scratching her head for a bit. I just sat in silence. There wasn't much I could say, really. This whole thing was just weird. There's not really a handbook that you can look at when it comes to time travel, so you gotta be fairly cautious. "I get all that stuff," she said while not stopping to think. "It's just one thing I don't really understand. Why shouldn't you trust Jacob?" she said afterwards. "Frankly, I don't know," I said, "but it's what it said," I followed up. Now, this might all sound a bit confusing, but trust me, you'll understand soon enough. You see, I recognized Jacob. I couldn't pinpoint why or where I had seen him, but I was sure I had. He felt familiar, like I've always known him somehow, but I was sure I didn't know who he was. "All right," Miranda said worryingly. "If all this mumbo is real, we better be careful," she followed up. "For now, we should pretend like nothing is wrong," I told Miranda. She nodded slowly before gesturing me to leave the room. I did as I was told and walked back to the lab. I didn't think about Jacob that much. I tried not to, quite frankly. The hours went by without a word being spoken, until Jacob cleared his throat and asked, "So, how's the project going? How far have you come?" He said a little hesitantly, Yeah, it's going good. I'm just now finishing up what I'd like to call a flux disk reader," I said with a smirk. But the face of Jacob dropped, and we were interrupted by sirens shouting, "Security breach! Intruder alert! Please make your way to the nearest security room." It repeats itself over and over as me and Jacob looked at each other before he said, "Well, that was unexpected," he said with a brief pause. We took off to the nearest security room. The security rooms were fairly large rooms made out of concrete, with spotlights in the ceiling highlighting capsule or pod-like machines on the far wall of the room. In the middle of the room was a table with clothes that looked like something out of Fallout 4. "Hey, happily surprised to see you two here," I heard Miranda's voice behind us. She shut the door behind her, locking it with a control panel on the left side of the door. "That should do it," she said, brushing off dust from her hands. Before I could react, Jacob pushed me into one of the pods in the back of the room, closing it shut. "Hey, what the fuck, man? Are you crazy?" I yelled out, banging on the pod glass window. "It had to be done Big Red," he yelled back, dragging out a gun from his back. He pointed the gun at Miranda, telling her to be calm. "You should have listened," Jacob said. The glass on the pod was starting to fog up, and I felt dizzy. But I couldn't stop watching as I punched the glass window. "Come in, fucking break already," I yelled as the window started to crack. My head felt more and more heavy as I started to fade out. Bang! A gunshot was heard outside, followed by a heavy thud into the concrete floor. It was Jacob who had been shot. Miranda at her knees looking at someone in another pod. What? How? It doesn't make sense." She stumbled out before I heard a voice. "I'm sorry I have to," it said. Miranda fell to the floor after being hit with some kind of stick-shaped thing. I passed out and woke up in the facility's nursery. Snap. Snap! The nurse's fingers snapped. "Welcome back, sleepyhead," one of the nurses said. I sat up in the bed rubbing my head. "What happened?" I asked the nurse in pain. "What do you mean?" "We found you in those old security rooms, whatever you were doing there," the nurse said with a smile. I rubbed my face for a bit, realizing that it felt different. I looked around the room, realizing that it wasn't the facility's nursery I've seen before. It was something else. It was the same room. Don't get me wrong. Even that picture on the wall with the Men in Black quote was still there. 1,500 years ago, humans knew that the Earth was the middle of the solar system. 500 years ago, humanity just knew that the Earth was flat. 15 minutes ago, you just knew that we were alone in the universe. Now imagine what we just know tomorrow. I always found that quote quite inspiring, actually. "Hey there, hotshot," said a voice behind the nurse. "You all right there?" The man chuckled. I didn't recognize the man. He was dressed in a lab coat with pens and instruments in its pockets. He held a clipboard under his arm when he approached me. The man looked to be in his 30s, slightly older than me. He had shoulder-long dark hair and he was quite muscular. "So, how did it go? Was it a success?" the man asked while waving away the nurses. I looked at the man with a confused look before I asked, "I'm sorry, but who are you and how did I end up here?" The man chuckled a little bit before continuing. "You told me this would happen. My name is Earl, and I took over after your disappearance 10 years ago. Your time travel project of sorts," he said with a grin. "Let me show you our progression," he said, ushering me along through the facility. The place I've come to know was the same at its core, but everything looked so surreal. It was modern, everything was white, and the lights hanging from the ceiling had a light blue glow coming out of them. I didn't really listen to Earl when we walked through the labs and testing halls. I was too occupied thinking about what Jakob had said before. It had to be done by Big Red. Why would he say that? How the fuck did he know about it? Also, why do I recognize him? I dove deep into my memories. I've never met this guy before. That's when it hit me. I stopped dead in my tracks, saying out loud, "Fucking hell, man." Earl stopped and watched me with a confused look. "Hey, you good there, buddy?" he said with a half-concerned smile. "I got something that I need to do." I said, "Have you cracked time travel yet?" I asked Earl. "How did you know?" he asked me, confused. "It's classified and no one knows yet. It was right before I found you. I managed it," he said, realizing what was happening. "You're not from around here, right?" he said with a smirk. I looked at him for a while before answering. No, I'm not," I said with a serious face. "What are we waiting for then?" He chuckled and quickened his pace. We shortly reached one of the labs hidden down in the basement, where a strange machine stood hooked up with one of the old emergency capsules that I had been standing in before. Figures, I whispered under my breath. Step right in, he said as he held his hand out, gesturing for me to step into the capsule. I did as I was told, as usual, found that doing that is the easiest way to continue to be alive. Anyway, he started to hook up a few different cables onto me before handing me a loaded gun. Just in case, he said with a wink before he shut the door to the capsule. Red flashing lights could be seen inside the room, and a mechanical voice could be heard in the background. Please stand back while the red light is flashing. Please proceed with the given instructions. The mechanical voice repeated itself multiple times. The sound started to fade out to white noise, and I could see bright flashes of a color I'm not able to describe with words. But the feeling I got was emptiness. I felt nothing. It wasn't a light, it was more of an absence of light. The colorblind people see, I guess you can say, when suddenly I could see again, and I could hear. Outside of the capsule, I could hear the faint noise of two people speaking. It was Jakob. I could hear him repeating the words I've just recently heard him say. You should have listened, I heard. I could hear myself pounding at the glass before the capsule opened, and I stepped out. Bang! I fired. Jakob's body dropped to the ground like a sack of potatoes, with his gun falling to the ground with him. Miranda looked at me with a scared, confused look before she burst out. What? How? It doesn't make sense. I picked up a metal pipe that laid on the floor beside me. I'm sorry, I have to, I said. With a sad face, I heightened the pipe and hit Miranda in the head with the pipe. Only a few seconds later, security came rushing into the room. What happened here? One of the guards pointed the weapon at me. He tried to shoot her. I killed him, I answered with shame. You see, I had never killed a man, and I wasn't planning on doing so either. But I guess that in this type of industry, it's something that you eventually will have to do. Whether or not you want to or not, it does not matter. The guards lowered his weapon to my waist before nodding to the others to bring me out of there. They took Miranda to the nursery, where she woke up a few hours later. Where am I? She said softly, still trying to grasp what had happened. What happened? She asked me, confused as to why she was in the nursery. Now, this was good. I didn't want her to know about the time traveling. I looked at her with a faint smile. Jakob turned on you, I said. That piece of shit. She coughed out when she tried to sit up. I was supposed to have an interview today with a new guy for your lab, she said with a small smile. Could you take it for me? She asked with a smile. Of course, I said, as I put a hand on her shoulder before leaving for the office. Hey, there, is this the interview room? Said a voice behind me. I smirked as I turned around to see Earl. I tapped my clipboard as I looked up at Earl. So, Earl? I faked a confused look. What's your credentials? I said. Looking back at my workstation, I couldn't help but to smile a little. I knew so much more than he could even imagine. He said with a slight stutter. I used to work with nuclear reactors, and I've had an internship for the past year at an atomic research facility, he continued. I smiled again and turned around. No, not professional credentials, I said, shaking my head. What do you do in your spare time? I asked with a smile again. Well, what? Earl smiled and slightly chuckled. I'm not sure I follow, he said, looking at me with a slight smile. I smiled back and looked at him with a serious face before that face turned into a faked, hopeless smile. I have no choice, you've convinced me, I said, shaking my head and waving my hands in the sky. You're hired, I said, pointing a finger at him in a joking manner. Oh, all right, no actual questions, he said with a surprised look. What do you mean? I've learned everything I need to know already, I said with a serious face. I got everything set up in the lab for you, I told him, ushering him out of the office. We took a walk through the facility, and I showed him around all the rooms he'll soon come to know. My thoughts drifted away as I started to ask myself what I'm doing. I started to doubt the career choice I'd made going here. I missed the simple life I thought before I heard someone calling my name. Paul, Paul. I hear Miranda call. What's up? I gestured for Earl to stay. How's he looking? Miranda asked, glancing over to Earl. He's a good kid, I said with a smile of remembrance. All right, she said. So what do you think? Should we hire him? She asked. She looked like she didn't like him that much. I already did, I said, smiling back. He might save your life one day, I said with a smirk. I highly doubt it, but all right, she said with a chuckle before going back to the nursery. I walked back to Earl and continued with the tour. We talked about old television shows we watched when we were young as we made our way through the long corridors. This place needs some white walls, he said while looking around the rooms. I laughed a little before I finally spoke. Yeah, sure, Earl, I trust your judgment, I said, looking down at the floor with that same thankful smile. You see, I haven't known Earl for very long, but I knew I could trust him. I mean, he did save both mine and Miranda's life after all, so that counts as something good in my books. A few hours went by and I got no work done. I just stared around the room, not thinking about anything besides the past days. Why do I do this again? I thought to myself as I scratched my head. Sure, it's cool and all, but I'm not up for this shit, I continued to myself. I stood up and started walking back and forth in the room. I'm going to quit. I stopped as I thought it. I walked quickly over to a cupboard I had in the corner of the lab. I picked up a notepad and started writing. Hey, Earl, I can't do this anymore. I need to get away from this stuff, but trust me, you'll fit right in. That's why I'm giving you full control of this project and everything that we've established so far. Everything you need to know is in the laptop, and if you have any problems with Miranda, tell her I told you it was fine, all right? Anyway, we'll meet one day, and I will tell you how everything went. But all you need to know is that I won't know you, I won't recognize you. That's all you need to know. Godspeed, friend. I owe you my life. Your friend, Paul. That's what the note said. I ripped it off the notepad and unlocked my laptop. I quickly wrote out a message and sent it to Miranda. I'm sorry, but I can't do this. I'm putting Earl in control of this project, and you must trust me. If you do not let Earl work on this thing, I'll be dead, and so will you. So listen to me carefully. He's the key to time travel. He's the one that will invent it. I know it. I can't tell you how I know I don't have time. You just have to trust me. Good luck, old friend. I wish you the best. I pressed send before leaving my laptop in the lab with the note attached to it folded in half. Right as I was about to walk out of the lab, I met Earl in the doorway. He had a look of confusion and concern as he looked at me and then at the laptop, then back at me again. You good there, boss? He asked with a raised eyebrow. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just hungry. Are you hungry? I said with a stressed voice. Come, let's get something to eat, I said, dragging him along towards the dining hall. Oh shit, I almost forgot, I said to Earl. He turned around as we approached the dining hall. I need to do something, I said, turning around. Earl looked at me strangely, but he let me leave. I walked hasty towards the stairs that led to the exit. When I reached the stairs, I walked up them trying to look as normal as I could. Good day, fellas, I said, bowing my head slightly to the guard standing at the exit. Good day, Paul, the right guard said with a slight nod. I opened the door to the exit and walked over to my car. I started it up and drove off. I drove for I don't know how long before I came out to a small-town gas station. I filled my tank up and continued to drive off. I drove for hours upon hours before I finally arrived at my destination. My old warehouse. You see, I'm writing this from my old desk where I once conducted business. and I feel like I need to explain some realizations that I've come to know recently. First of all, let me clear up some things about Jacob. You know how, in part 4 of this story, one of the hypotheses was that time travel basically only splits the timeline in 2 equally probable outcomes of an action. You see, I now know why I recognize Jacob. Jacob isn't really Jacob. He's, well, me, but older, and from one of the timelines where I hold a grudge against Miranda for dragging me into this mess. A grudge big enough for me to travel back in time to kill Miranda before we had the ability to invent time travel. I mean, it's my best guess, and I think I'm not far off, sadly. Another thing that I want to clear up is why I even write this. Well, I had to. If I didn't, the future wouldn't turn out as it's supposed to. So now you might understand why this all has happened, and I will give you the pleasure of knowing my real name. I mean, I don't exist anymore anyway. Miranda made sure of that. So let me tell you a dead man's tale. My name's Charlie North. I'm still a dark web courier, and these were my stories. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear Charlie North's dark web courier horror stories. I've always been a bit of a thrill seeker, drawn to the unknown and the forbidden. The dark web, with its whispered legends and hidden treasures, was like a magnet for my curiosity. It wasn't just about the illegal stuff or the shady deals. It was the mystery, the allure of uncovering secrets that society deemed too dark to explore. So, one night, fueled by a mix of curiosity and adrenaline, I decided to take a peek into the dark web's marketplace. With my trusty VPN in place and a sense of trepidation tingling in the back of my mind, I delved into the digital underworld. The marketplace was a chaotic mess of offerings, ranging from drugs and counterfeit goods to hacked accounts and stolen data. But amidst this digital chaos, it was the mystery boxes that caught my eye. I had heard whispers about them in online forums, tales of strange and eerie experiences packaged into boxes and sold to the highest bidder. One listing in particular stood out to me, a mystery box that promised a real-life horror experience. The seller's description was cryptic yet intriguing, hinting at personalized nightmares tailored to the buyer's deepest fears. It was like something out of a horror movie, and I couldn't resist the temptation to see what it was all about. Of course, I didn't want to dive into this dark adventure alone. I thought about who would be the perfect candidate to share this experience with me. Someone who shared my sense of adventure and thrill. That's when I thought of my best friend, Sam. Sam and I had been friends since childhood, sharing countless memories and secrets. But as life took its toll and we grew older, our friendship had started to drift apart. We still cared about each other, of course, but there was a distance that hadn't been there before. Ordering the mystery box felt like a way to bridge that gap, to bring back the excitement and closeness we had lost. It was meant to be a harmless prank, a way to inject some fun and adventure into our lives. So, with a mix of excitement and nervousness, I clicked the Buy Now button and entered Sam's address as the shipping destination. I imagined his surprise and excitement when he received the mysterious package, never suspecting the horrors that lurked within. It was all in good fun, or so I thought at the time. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent decision would lead to a chain of events that would forever change our lives, plunging us into a nightmare from which there was no escape. The days passed after I ordered the mystery box, and life went on as usual. I had almost forgotten about my impulsive decision, caught up in the hustle and bustle of everyday life. But then, one evening, I received a text from Sam that sent a chill down my spine. The text read, "Hey, got a weird package today. Did you order something for me?" My heart raced as I realized that the mystery box had arrived. I replied, trying to downplay my excitement. Yeah, just a little surprise. Let me know what you think. I waited anxiously for his response, wondering what horrors or delights awaited him inside the box. Minutes felt like hours as I stared at my phone, the anticipation building with each passing second, and then finally his reply came. Dude, this is insane. You have to come over and see this. With a mixture of excitement and trepidation, I rushed over to Sam's place. He greeted me at the door with a wide-eyed expression, holding the mystery box in his hands like a prized possession. You won't believe what's inside, he exclaimed, his voice a mix of excitement and disbelief. We sat down in his living room, the mystery box between us like a ticking time bomb. Sam hesitated for a moment before opening it, as if sensing the gravity of what lay inside. With a deep breath, he lifted the lid, and we both peered inside, unsure of what to expect. What we saw inside the box sent a shiver down my spine. It was like a scene from a horror movie come to life. There were strange artifacts, cryptic symbols, and a letter written in a language we couldn't recognize. The air seemed to grow colder as we examined the contents, a sense of unease settling over us like a dark cloud. But the real horror came when we read the letter. It was addressed to Sam, and it contained a chilling message. You have unleashed something dark and sinister. Prepare for the consequences. It was signed with a symbol we didn't recognize, adding to the mystery and fear. We tried to brush it off as a prank, a clever marketing ploy by the seller of the mystery box. But as the days passed, strange things started happening. Sam would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat and mumbling about nightmares he couldn't remember. Objects would move on their own, and strange noises echoed through his apartment. At first, we laughed it off, attributing it to stress or lack of sleep. But as the occurrences became more frequent and more bizarre, we couldn't deny that something was terribly wrong. Sam's demeanor changed, becoming more paranoid and agitated. He would talk about feeling like he was being watched, like something was following him wherever he went. I tried to convince him to seek help, to talk to a therapist or even a priest if necessary. But Sam was adamant that this was more than just a psychological issue. He was convinced that the mystery box had unleashed a malevolent force, a dark entity that was now haunting him. As his friend, I felt responsible. I had brought this horror into his life, all in the name of a silly prank. Guilt gnawed at me, eating away at my conscience as I watched Sam's mental state deteriorate before my eyes. And then, one fateful night, I received a frantic call from Sam. His voice was filled with terror as he whispered, "It's here, the thing from the box. It's real and it's coming for me." I could hear footsteps and strange noises in the background, and then the line went dead. I rushed to Sam's apartment, my heart pounding with fear and regret. But when I arrived, it was too late. Sam was dead, his lifeless body lying on the floor, surrounded by symbols and artifacts from the mystery box. The police ruled it as a suicide, citing Sam's deteriorating mental state as the cause. But I knew the truth. I had unleashed a nightmare upon my best friend, a horror that had claimed his life. The guilt and remorse weighed heavy on my shoulders, a constant reminder of the consequences of my actions. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had opened a door to darkness that should have remained closed. And as I sit here, haunted by the memory of Sam's death and the horrors of the mystery box, I can't help but wonder if there are other boxes out there waiting to unleash their horrors on unsuspecting victims. After Sam's tragic death, my world spiraled into a nightmarish blur of guilt and grief. The weight of responsibility for what had happened to him bore down on me like a leaden cloak, suffocating me with every breath. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had unleashed something malevolent, something that had taken my best friend from me in the most horrifying way possible. The days following Sam's death were a haze of funeral arrangements and condolences. Friends and family offered their support, but their words of comfort fell on deaf ears. How could I explain to them the true nature of what had happened? How could I tell them that I had ordered a mystery box on the dark web, leading to Sam's untimely demise? The guilt gnawed at me day and night, a relentless reminder of my role in the tragedy. I couldn't sleep, haunted by nightmares of Sam's final moments and the malevolent force that had claimed his life. Every shadow seemed to conceal a lurking threat, every creak of the floorboards a whisper of impending doom. But it wasn't just my imagination running wild. Strange things started happening in my own life, echoing the horrors that had befallen Sam. Objects would go missing, only to reappear in inexplicable places. I would hear whispers in the dead of night, voices that seemed to come from nowhere and yet everywhere at once. I tried to convince myself that it was all in my head, a manifestation of my guilt and grief. But deep down, I knew that something was terribly wrong. The darkness that had claimed Sam's life had now set its sights on me, a relentless force hell-bent on driving me to the brink of madness. I became obsessed with finding answers, with unraveling the mystery of the mystery box. I scoured the dark web, diving deeper into its murky depths than I had ever dared before. I contacted the seller, hoping to glean some insight into the horrors he had unleashed upon us. But the seller was elusive, his responses cryptic and evasive. He spoke of ancient curses and forbidden knowledge, of powers beyond human comprehension. It was clear that he knew more than he let on, but he refused to divulge the truth, leaving me with more questions than answers. As the days turned into weeks, the paranormal activity in my life intensified. I would wake up to find scratches on my walls, symbols etched in blood-red paint. I would see shadows darting in the corners of my vision, fleeting glimpses of something dark and sinister. I reached out to experts in the occult and paranormal, desperate for help in understanding what was happening to me. Some dismissed me as a lunatic, attributing the phenomena to stress or mental illness. But others took me seriously, conducting rituals and investigations to uncover the truth. What they discovered chilled me to the bone. The mystery box I had ordered was not just a harmless prank or a clever marketing gimmick. It was a portal, a gateway to a realm of darkness and despair. The artifacts inside were cursed, imbued with malevolent energies that fed off fear and despair. I had unwittingly invited a demon into my life, a creature of pure evil that thrived on suffering and death. And now it was coming for me, seeking to claim my soul as its next victim. I tried everything to rid myself of the curse, from exorcisms to protective talismans. But the demon was relentless, its presence growing stronger with each passing day. It whispered promises of power and immortality, tempting me to embrace the darkness that had consumed my life. But I refused to give in. I refused to let the demon win, to let it claim another innocent life. I fought back with every ounce of strength and willpower I had, determined to break free from its grasp. And then one night, as I sat alone in my darkened apartment, the demon appeared before me. It was a monstrous creature, all claws and fangs and eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. It spoke to me in a voice that echoed with the screams of the damned, promising eternal torment if I didn't surrender to its will. But I stood my ground, my heart pounding with fear and defiance. I called upon every ounce of courage I had, every shred of hope and determination. And with a final act of defiance, I banished the demon back to the depths from whence it came. The darkness lifted, the whispers ceased, and I was left alone in the silence of my apartment. The curse had been broken, but at what cost? I had lost my best friend, and I had come face to face with the true horrors of the dark web. As I sit here now, haunted by the memories of what happened, I can't help but wonder if it was all worth it. Was the thrill of the unknown worth the price of my sanity and the life of my friend? I may never know the answer, but one thing is certain. The dark web holds secrets that should never be uncovered, lest they consume us all in their endless darkness. After the encounter with the demon, my life became a relentless pursuit of understanding and redemption. The events that had transpired had left me shaken to the core, my mind a whirlwind of questions and doubts. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the mystery than I had uncovered, that there were secrets lurking in the shadows waiting to be revealed. I delved deeper into the occult and paranormal, seeking answers from ancient texts and obscure rituals. I consulted with experts and scholars, desperate for any shred of knowledge that could shed light on what had happened. But the more I searched, the more elusive the truth became. It was during one of my late-night research sessions that I stumbled upon a clue, a cryptic message hidden in an ancient grimoire. The message spoke of a ritual that could summon and bind demonic entities. It was risky, dangerous even, but I was desperate for answers, willing to risk everything to uncover the truth. I gathered the necessary materials and prepared for the ritual with a mix of fear and determination. The air crackled with anticipation as I lit the candles and inscribed the symbols, following the instructions with painstaking precision. And then, with a deep breath and a steady hand, I began the incantation. The words flowed from my lips like a prayer and a curse, a plea for knowledge and a demand for answers. The room seemed to vibrate with energy, a palpable sense of otherworldly presence filling the air. And then, in a flash of blinding light, the demon appeared before me once again. Its form was terrifying, a grotesque amalgamation of nightmares and nightmares. But I stood my ground, steeling myself against its malevolent gaze. I demanded answers, demanding to know why it had targeted me and Sam, why it had brought such horror into our lives. The demon's response was cryptic, yet revealing. It spoke of ancient pacts and forgotten promises, of a world beyond our understanding where darkness and light were but two sides of the same coin. It spoke of the dark web as a gateway, a portal to realms unseen and unexplored. But what chilled me to the bone was its warning. It warned me of forces beyond my control, of entities far more powerful and malevolent than itself. It warned me that by delving too deep into the mysteries of the dark web, I had attracted the attention of beings that should never be disturbed. I pressed the demon for more information, desperate to understand the full extent of what I had unleashed. But it refused to divulge more, fading away into the shadows with a haunting laugh. I was left alone once again, with more questions than answers, and a sinking feeling of dread in the pit of my stomach. I continued my research, piecing together fragments of information like a detective unraveling a complex conspiracy. I uncovered ancient texts and forbidden knowledge, each revelation bringing me closer to the truth. But the truth was more horrifying than I could have ever imagined. I learned of secret societies and occult rituals, of dark web forums where the boundaries between reality and nightmare blurred. I learned of entities that lurked in the digital shadows, feeding off fear and despair. And I learned of a prophecy that spoke of a chosen one who would unlock the gates of hell itself. I realized then that I had stumbled upon something far more sinister than a simple mystery box prank. I had stumbled upon a conspiracy that spanned centuries, a conspiracy that threatened to unravel the very fabric of reality. And I knew that I couldn't face it alone. I reached out to others, fellow seekers of truth and knowledge. Together, we formed a clandestine network, sharing information and pooling our resources in a desperate bid to stop the darkness from consuming us all. We conducted rituals and experiments, seeking to harness the same forces that had brought such horror into our lives. But with each step closer to the truth, the dangers grew more real. We were targeted by unknown adversaries, shadowy figures who lurked in the digital shadows, watching our every move. Our lives became a game of cat and mouse, a deadly dance with forces beyond our control. And then, one fateful night, as we delved deeper into the mysteries of the dark web, tragedy struck. One of our own, a brave soul who had dared to confront the darkness head-on, disappeared without a trace. We searched high and low, but there was no sign of them, no clue to their whereabouts. It was a stark reminder of the stakes we were playing for, of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. But we pressed on, fueled by a mix of determination and desperation. We knew that the only way to stop the darkness was to confront it, to shine a light on the secrets that lay hidden in the depths of the dark web. As I sit here now, reflecting on the journey that has brought me to this point, I can't help but wonder what lies ahead. The darkness is still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next opportunity to strike. But I am not alone. I have allies, fellow seekers who share my determination to uncover the truth and put an end to the horrors that haunt us. The road ahead is treacherous, filled with unknown dangers and unseen adversaries. But I am ready. I am ready to face the darkness head-on, to confront the demons that lurk in the digital abyss. And I will not rest until the mysteries of the dark web are laid bare and the forces of darkness are banished once and for all. As the days stretched into uncertainty, our clandestine network grew stronger. We pooled our knowledge and resources, delving deeper into the mysteries of the dark web and the secrets it harbored. But with each revelation came new challenges, new dangers that threatened to tear us apart. The disappearance of our comrade weighed heavily on us, a grim reminder of the perils we faced in our quest for truth. We redoubled our efforts, conducting rituals and experiments with a sense of urgency that bordered on desperation. We knew that time was running out, that the forces we were up against were growing stronger with each passing day. But amidst the chaos and uncertainty, a glimmer of hope emerged. We uncovered a lead, a clue that pointed to a hidden enclave within the dark web, a place where the darkest secrets were said to be kept. It was a risk, a leap into the unknown, but we knew that we had to follow the trail wherever it led. Armed with determination and a sense of purpose, we set out on our final journey. The path was treacherous, filled with digital traps and hidden dangers, but we pressed on, driven by a shared sense of duty and the hope of uncovering the truth. As we ventured deeper into the digital abyss, the stakes grew higher. We were targeted by unknown adversaries, shadowy figures who seemed to anticipate our every move. But we refused to be deterred, pressing forward with unwavering resolve. And then, at long last, we reached our destination, the hidden enclave within the dark web. It was a place shrouded in secrecy, a labyrinth of encrypted files and cryptic messages. But we were undaunted, fueled by a sense of purpose that bordered on obsession. We began to unravel the secrets hidden within the enclave, piecing together fragments of information like a puzzle. We learned of ancient rituals and forbidden knowledge, of entities that lurked in the digital shadows, waiting to be unleashed. And we learned of a prophecy that spoke of a chosen one who would wield the power to shape reality itself. But as we delved deeper, we realized that we were not alone. The shadowy figures who had been pursuing us were closing in, their presence growing stronger with each passing moment. We knew that we had to act fast, to uncover the truth before it was too late. And then, in a moment of clarity, it all clicked into place. We discovered the identity of the Chosen One, the one who held the key to unlocking the power hidden within the dark web. It was someone within our own ranks, someone who had been with us from the beginning. But as we prepared to confront the Chosen One, tragedy struck once again. Our stronghold was attacked, our defenses breached by unknown forces. Chaos erupted as we fought for our lives, our quest for truth overshadowed by the grim reality of survival. In the midst of the chaos, I found myself face to face with the Chosen One. They were a figure shrouded in mystery, their intentions unclear. But as we locked eyes, I saw a flicker of recognition, a spark of understanding that transcended words. We stood there in silence, the weight of our shared destiny hanging heavy in the air. And then, with a nod of mutual understanding, we joined forces. We knew that our only chance of survival lay in unity, in setting aside our differences and confronting the true enemy that lurked in the shadows. Together, we faced the final challenge, a battle that would determine the fate of not just our clandestine network, but the world itself. It was a battle of wills and ideologies, a clash of ancient powers and modern technology. And in the end, against all odds, we emerged victorious. The forces of darkness were banished, their power broken by the combined strength of our unity and determination. The dark web, once a realm of nightmares and secrets, was cleansed of its malevolent influence, but the cost of victory was high. Many lives were lost, sacrifices made in the name of a greater cause. Our clandestine network was scattered, its members scattered to the winds, their fates unknown. As I reflect on the journey that brought me to this point, I can't help but wonder what lies ahead. The dark web may have been cleansed, but its secrets still linger, waiting to be uncovered by those brave enough to seek them out. I may never know the full extent of what we uncovered in our quest for truth, but one thing is certain: the darkness that lurks in the digital shadows is not to be underestimated. It is a force that can consume us all if we're not careful, a reminder that some secrets are best left buried. And so, as I bid farewell to my comrades and set out on a new journey, I carry with me the lessons learned and the memories forged in the crucible of the dark web. I may never fully escape its influence, but I am determined to use what I have learned for the greater good, to ensure that the horrors we faced will never be unleashed upon the world again. I never thought delving into the dark web would lead to such horrors. It all started innocently enough, with my brother Alex, always fascinated by the hidden corners of the internet. He was a tech whiz, always tinkering with code and encryption. One day, he stumbled upon a forum thread about a mysterious website. Users spoke in hushed tones about its existence, claiming it was a gateway to the darkest secrets imaginable. Curiosity got the better of Alex, and he embarked on a journey to uncover the truth. He spent weeks deciphering cryptic clues, diving deeper into the abyss of the dark web. Late nights turned into early mornings as he pieced together fragments of information, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge. One rainy evening, while I was scrolling through Reddit, I received a frantic call from Alex. His voice trembled with excitement and fear as he relayed his findings. He had unearthed the entrance to the elusive website, a portal shrouded in mystery and danger. Despite my protests and warnings, he was determined to explore further, convinced that he was onto something groundbreaking. Days turned into weeks, and Alex became consumed by his quest. He grew distant, his once vibrant personality overshadowed by obsession. I could sense a growing unease in him, a palpable fear lurking beneath his facade of excitement. He would mumble incoherently in his sleep, haunted by nightmares I couldn't begin to comprehend. Then, one fateful night, he made a breakthrough. He discovered a section of the website labeled The Chamber of Secrets. Intrigued and terrified in equal measure, he delved deeper, uncovering a series of encrypted files containing disturbing content. Photos and videos depicted unspeakable acts of violence and depravity, each more unsettling than the last. Alex's demeanor shifted drastically after that discovery. He became paranoid, constantly looking over his shoulder as if being followed. He would lock himself in his room for hours on end, muttering about shadows and whispers that only he could hear. I tried to intervene, to pull him back from the edge, but he was too far gone. Then, one morning, I woke up to an empty house. Alex was gone, leaving behind a trail of cryptic messages and encrypted files. No one knew where he had gone or if he was even alive. The authorities were baffled, unable to make sense of the digital breadcrumbs he had scattered. As I sit here, haunted by the memory of my brother's descent into madness, I can't help but wonder what secrets he uncovered in the dark web's darkest depths. And more chillingly, if those secrets are now hunting him, lurking in the shadows, waiting to claim their next victim. The days stretched into weeks, and the mystery of Alex's disappearance only deepened. I found myself consumed by a relentless need to unravel the truth, to follow the breadcrumbs he left behind in the digital realm. Each encrypted file he left behind felt like a piece of a sinister puzzle, urging me to delve deeper into the darkness he had uncovered. I scoured every online forum, every dark web community, hoping to find a clue, a lead, anything that could shed light on Alex's whereabouts. The deeper I dug, the more unsettling the revelations became. Whispers of a clandestine organization, operating in the shadows, orchestrating unspeakable horrors for their own twisted amusement. One night, as I sifted through a maze of encrypted messages, I stumbled upon a cryptic thread titled "The Vanishing." Users spoke in veiled language, hinting at disappearances linked to the same mysterious website Alex had stumbled upon. They spoke of a darkness that consumed those who dared to peek behind the curtain, a darkness that left no trace of its victims. I reached out to these anonymous voices, desperate for answers. Some dismissed me as a curious bystander, warning me to tread carefully in the murky waters of the dark web. Others, however, whispered of a trail of breadcrumbs left by those who had vanished, a trail that led to a place known only as the Nexus. The Nexus, they claimed, was a digital labyrinth where reality blurred with nightmare. It was rumored to be the heart of the dark web's darkest secrets, a place where the lines between truth and fiction were irrevocably blurred. It was also said to be heavily guarded, with layers of encryption and security measures designed to deter even the most determined seekers. Undeterred by the warnings, fueled by a mix of fear and determination, I delved deeper into the enigma of the Nexus. I navigated through hidden forums, cracked codes, and deciphered cryptic messages, each step bringing me closer to the truth and closer to the unknown dangers that lurked in the shadows. And then one fateful night I received a message from an anonymous source. The message was brief, yet it sent a chill down my spine. It contained a single word: beware. It was a warning, a cryptic reminder of the perils that awaited me as I ventured further into the abyss. But I couldn't turn back now. The hunt for my brother had become a quest for answers, a quest that would lead me to the darkest corners of the dark web and into a confrontation with forces beyond my comprehension. As I prepared to embark on this perilous journey, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that every move I made was being scrutinized by unseen eyes. The stage was set, the pieces in motion. The hunt for Alex had transformed into a hunt for truth, a hunt that would test my sanity and push me to the brink of madness. And as I stared into the abyss of the Nexus, I knew that there was no turning back. Entering the Nexus was like stepping into a nightmare made tangible. The interface was a dizzying array of neon colors and distorted imagery, a chaotic amalgamation of code and chaos. It felt like navigating through a digital hellscape, where every click could lead to unknown horrors or hidden truths. The first challenge was gaining access. The Nexus was guarded by layers of encryption, each more complex than the last. It took days of relentless hacking, bypassing firewalls and cracking passwords to finally breach the outer defenses. But even as I gained entry, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of being a trespasser in a realm where I didn't belong. As I delved deeper into the Nexus, I encountered a labyrinth of forums and chat rooms, each with its own set of rules and secrets. Users spoke in cryptic language, exchanging information in whispers and riddles. It was a game of cat and mouse, where trust was a rare commodity and deception lurked around every corner. One forum in particular caught my attention. It was titled The Oracle's Chamber, and it claimed to hold the answers I sought. Users spoke of a mysterious figure known only as the Oracle, a digital prophet who could reveal hidden truths and foretell the future. Skeptical yet desperate for answers, I ventured into the chamber. The Oracle's Chamber was a surreal experience. It was a virtual space devoid of any visual cues, a blank canvas where words and thoughts intertwined. Users communicated through text alone, their messages appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. It was disorienting, yet strangely captivating, like conversing with ghosts in a digital seance. I posed my question to the Oracle, asking about Alex's fate and the dark forces that had led him astray. The response was cryptic, yet ominous, hinting at a web of deceit and manipulation woven by unseen hands. The Oracle spoke of a hidden network of power, of shadowy figures pulling the strings from the shadows. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I delved deeper into the Nexus, unraveling threads of conspiracy and betrayal. I uncovered a trail of digital breadcrumbs leading to a group known as the Architects. They were rumored to be the puppet masters behind the dark web's most sinister dealings, orchestrating a twisted symphony of chaos and control. But as I dug deeper, I realized that I was not alone in my quest. Shadows lurked in the virtual corners, watching my every move. I received cryptic messages warning me to turn back, to abandon my pursuit before it consumed me. But I was driven by a primal need for answers, for closure in the face of unspeakable horrors. And then, one night, I stumbled upon a file that sent a chill down my spine. It was a video, grainy and distorted yet unmistakably real. It showed Alex, pale and gaunt, trapped in a dark room with walls adorned with cryptic symbols. He looked directly into the camera, his eyes filled with a mix of fear and resignation. And then the video cut to black, leaving me with more questions than answers. The discovery shook me to the core. It was proof that Alex was alive, yet trapped in a nightmare of his own making. The Architects had him in their clutches, using him as a pawn in their twisted game. Determined to rescue him, I forged ahead, navigating through the Nexus's darkest corners with a sense of urgency and dread. But with every step forward, the shadows grew deeper, the whispers louder. I could feel the presence of unseen forces closing in, threatening to consume me like they had consumed my brother. And as I braced myself for the final confrontation, I knew that the truth awaiting me at the heart of the Nexus would be more horrifying than anything I could have imagined. As I delved deeper into the Nexus, the lines between reality and nightmare blurred. Every click, every keystroke felt like a step deeper into a digital abyss where the rules of the physical world no longer applied. The Oracle's cryptic warnings echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. I uncovered more clues about the Architects, piecing together fragments of information like a detective unraveling a complex conspiracy. They were a clandestine organization with roots stretching back centuries, their influence seeping into every corner of the dark web. They operated in shadows, pulling strings and manipulating events with impunity. But what chilled me to the bone was their ultimate goal. They sought to harness the darkest energies of the digital realm, to transcend the boundaries of reality and reshape the world according to their twisted desires. It was a megalomaniacal ambition, fueled by greed and madness, and Alex had unwittingly stumbled into their path. Armed with this knowledge, I navigated through the Nexus with a newfound sense of purpose. Every encounter, Every interaction felt like a chess match against unseen adversaries. I exchanged cryptic messages with fellow seekers, forming alliances born out of necessity and shared desperation. One night, as I delved into a hidden archive, I stumbled upon a trove of encrypted files labeled Project Elysium. The contents were a chilling revelation, detailing the architect's plans to unleash a digital apocalypse unlike anything the world had ever seen. It spoke of a convergence of dark energies, a cataclysmic event that would plunge the world into chaos and despair. But what sent a shiver down my spine was the mention of sacrifices. The architects were not content with mere digital domination. They sought to feed on human suffering, to harvest souls as fuel for their dark ambitions. And among the names listed in those files was Alex's, a grim reminder of the fate that awaited him if I didn't intervene. Armed with this damning evidence, I reached out to the authorities, hoping to expose the architect's nefarious plans and rescue Alex from their clutches. But my pleas fell on deaf ears. The digital realm was a murky territory, beyond the jurisdiction of law enforcement, a playground for those who operated in shadows. Frustrated yet undeterred, I turned to the online community for support. Together, we launched a digital crusade, spreading awareness about the architect's machinations and urging others to join our cause. The response was mixed, with some dismissing us as conspiracy theorists and others joining our ranks with fervent determination. As the momentum grew, so did the risks. I received ominous messages from unknown sources warning me to cease my activities or face dire consequences. My digital footprint became a target, subjected to relentless hacking attempts and cyber attacks. But I refused to back down, fueled by a mix of righteous anger and sheer desperation. And then one night, as I delved deeper into the Nexus's underbelly, I stumbled upon a virtual meeting of the architects. It was a surreal experience, watching shadowy figures converse in hushed tones, their faces obscured by digital masks. They spoke of their plans with a chilling nonchalance, discussing sacrifices and rituals as if they were discussing mundane tasks. But what sent a chill down my spine was their mention of a forthcoming event, a convergence of dark energies that would herald the dawn of a new era. It was a countdown to destruction, and Alex was at the center of it all, a pawn in their grand scheme. Determined to stop this madness, I prepared for the final showdown. I armed myself with knowledge and allies, bracing for a confrontation with forces beyond my comprehension. The Nexus was a battlefield, and the fate of my brother and the world hung in the balance. As I took a deep breath and plunged into the digital abyss, I knew that there was no turning back. The countdown to the dark web's apocalypse had begun, ticking away like a digital time bomb. Every second felt like an eternity, each click of the clock a reminder of the impending catastrophe. I rallied my allies, forging a digital army united by a common cause, to stop the architects and save my brother from a fate worse than death. The final showdown took place in the heart of the Nexus, a virtual battleground where reality and nightmare converged. The architects had fortified their defenses, deploying layers of encryption and digital traps to deter intruders. But we were determined, fueled by a mix of desperation and righteous fury. The first obstacle was breaching their digital fortress. It took every ounce of our combined hacking skills to bypass their defenses, unraveling codes and disabling security measures with precision and determination. As we breached the outer perimeter, a sense of exhilaration mixed with dread washed over me. The stakes had never been higher, and failure was not an option. As we ventured deeper into the Nexus, the digital landscape grew more surreal. We encountered virtual mazes and puzzles designed to confound and confuse, each a test of wit and determination. But we pressed on, driven by a singular goal: to confront the architects and put an end to their reign of terror. The final chamber was a surreal sight, a virtual arena bathed in an eerie glow. The architects stood before us, their faces hidden behind digital masks, their voices distorted by encryption. They taunted us with promises of power and immortality, luring us into their twisted game. But we were not swayed. We stood united, a coalition of digital warriors fighting for a noble cause. We unleashed a barrage of cyber attacks, exploiting vulnerabilities and disrupting their communications. The virtual battlefield erupted into chaos, a symphony of code and chaos. In the midst of the chaos, I spotted Alex, trapped in a digital cage, his eyes filled with fear and resignation. He was a mere puppet in the architect's grand design, a sacrificial lamb in their quest for ultimate power. My heart clenched with a mix of rage and determination. I would not let them take him, not without a fight. With renewed resolve, we launched a final assault on the architect's stronghold. It was a battle of wills, a clash of ideologies. They fought with all the digital weapons at their disposal, unleashing viruses and malware in a desperate attempt to fend us off. But we were relentless, driven by a righteous fury that fueled our every move. And then, in a moment of sheer defiance, we breached their last line of defense. The digital fortress crumbled, the virtual walls collapsing in a cascade of code and chaos. The architects stood exposed, their masks shattered, their true faces revealed. What we saw chilled us to the bone. The architects were not faceless entities. They were people like us, consumed by greed and delusion. Their eyes were filled with madness, their voices tinged with desperation. They had gambled everything for power, and now they stood on the brink of defeat. As the dust settled, we gathered around Alex, freeing him from his digital prison. He was shaken but alive, his eyes filled with gratitude and disbelief. The nightmare was over, the darkness vanquished. But the scars remained, a reminder of the horrors we had witnessed and the price we had paid. In the aftermath, we dismantled the architects' network, exposing their crimes to the digital world. The authorities took notice, launching investigations and arrests. The dark web's darkest chapter had come to an end, but its echoes would linger in our memories forever. As I sit here, reflecting on the journey we undertook, I can't help but feel a sense of pride and sadness. We had faced the darkness head-on and emerged victorious, but at what cost? The digital realm was a double-edged sword, offering knowledge and power, but also harboring unimaginable horrors. But amidst the darkness, there was also hope. We had proven that even in the darkest corners of the internet, there were those willing to fight for what is right. And as we move forward, I carry with me the lessons learned and the bonds forged in the fires of adversity. The digital frontier may be treacherous, but with courage and unity, we can overcome any obstacle that stands in our way.